Which officer was that?
Michael Lank.
And about what time did you ask Officer Lank to join you back at 34 Fairview?
I'm not sure. I know it was in the AM. I'm just not sure what time exactly.
Somewhere around 9 a.m. Does that sound about right?
Possibly.
Okay, so this literally, we're talking about just a couple of hours after the incident in question.
Correct.
Okay. Sergeant Lank came with Sergeant Gallagher, I believe, correct?
Correct.
Came back to the location at 34 Fairview and gave you an opportunity to provide whatever information you deemed relevant at that time to impart to him, correct?
Correct.
And isn't it true that at that time, you didn't tell Sergeant Lank that my client said, I hit him? What you said was that my client said, I hope I didn't hit him, correct?
No.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Incident report page. It's like the second to the last page. It's Lank's report. Could you take a look at that report, just the face page, and tell me if that appears to be an incident report associated with this case? I know you didn't draft it, but you recognize that that's an incident report from the police, Canton Police specifically.
Yes.
Could you turn to the tab that's the little light blue tab, maybe 3 pages from the end of that report?
Yes.
I'd like you to read that paragraph to yourself, if you wouldn't mind, please. Do you have that in mind?
I do, yes.
Okay, may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hey, jerks. Mike
What you
Crawford
read
here.
just now appears to be
What a day today. More meltdowns today in court. Must see TV. Jennifer McCabe, the finish of this cross. Everyone's talking about Higgins maybe on Friday. It looks like no court tomorrow. We got Mazda Media and attorney Mark Bederow in the green room. We're about to bring them up. Just got a note tonight. Attorney Bederow is in the car. I believe he's coming to Boston. I think that's what he's doing. We're gonna find out, but he's not in the office like he usually is. So there is some background noise. I hope you guys let me know if it's okay. But we're gonna bring up Mazda Media up first. Let's just bring him up.
All
What's
right.
up, Mazda Media?
How are you, Mike? Thanks for having me once again.
What about today, huh?
Oh my goodness, that was more just this woman's tenacity towards trying to be in control all the time knows absolutely no bounds whatsoever. She's got to be in control at all times, and it's just like Alan Jackson said there. I'm not the one under oath, ma'am. You are.
Unbelievable.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
She was trying to be the judge. She was trying to be the defense attorney, the prosecutor, the jury. She's trying to be everything all at once and organize the circle.
Yeah. She's at one point she looked at Auntie Bev. I can't even remember if it was yesterday or today. She's looking at Auntie Bev like, "You really not going to sustain this right now?" It's like,
Yeah.
like she has more power and authority than anybody in that courthouse. It's unbelievable. It's the worst I've ever seen. But we got to see what we wanted today, which was the Google search. And if anybody's ever had their wisdom teeth pulled, how she was acting was the equivalent of that kind of, even though you're numb, you can still you're still going through that whole process. It was about as fun as watching someone get their tooth extracted today, the way she was acting. She was totally, like Alan Jackson said to her, he goes, what would you search if you were going to Google how long to die in cold? What would you search? She wouldn't say it. She kept saying, well, I don't know. You tell me. And why don't you just show me what you have there and I'll answer it. It's like, you're going to die on this hill all the way to the very end. This woman, is, I keep just thinking to myself, and I kept quoting Jurassic Park over the weekend, and I just keep thinking about it. Just because you could doesn't mean you should. And I think they just got so obsessed with the idea that they could just cover this thing up, and they just don't want to relent. There's so much. There is. When you talk about Karen Reed, and I was thinking about this late last night after the show. It came to me probably a half hour later, and I thought, when you think about Karen Reed and you say to yourself, everything that they've said about her are accusations. Everything that they've said about Karen is he said, she said. There's no concrete data against Karen Reed at all. When you look at Jen McCabe and others, there's all kinds of concrete data. There's video of her going towards the house. There's the Google search. There's even the John O'Keefe Apple Health data of him going into the house. All this stuff is out there and it's reputable. And against Karen, it's all he said, she said. There's nothing, when you have someone like Jen who's on the stand today and is finally confronted with the Celebrite data. At 2:27, you Googled this. That's concrete information. That is coming from a professional organization that has legitimate information that is not going to lie. The data doesn't lie. And someone else today, probably at the same time, I can't remember who it was today, probably at the same time around lunchtime, we both tweeted the same thing, that data doesn't lie. It doesn't lie. If it says that if your phone conducted a Google search in your Safari app at 2:27 a.m. that morning, and it also says that you deleted it, it happened. And she just, every single time she was confronted by Alan Jackson today, why did you Google it? Did you Google it? She goes right back to 6:30ish. Well, Karen asked me to Google this, and she asked me to Google hypothermia and all this stuff. She never answers the question directly. I'm surprised she even read it, 2:27 and How Long to Die in Cold, when he asked her to. I was shocked about that. But she just refuses to combat it, refute it. Nobody put this stuff on their phone. Nobody sent this ping to Celebrate and said that Jen McCabe on her phone is Googling this. That would have had to have been imported on her phone. If she Googled Boston Celtics at 2:27 a.m. and then Googled it again at 6:30, those are going to come up on her search history. And she tries to refute it. She tries to deny it. And it's very clear that the evidence is what it is. And she tried to take on Turtle Boy today. Oh, well, she accused Alan Jackson. You're putting that information out there, and Turtle Boy put this information out there. Well, if you know that information's out there, then why, when Alan Jackson asked you what you searched before we put it on that screen today, why did you continuously claim that you had no idea what was being searched? She refuted that numerous times. But then she's like, oh, well, you know what Alan Jackson put out there, apparently, which he denied,
Yeah.
which I believe. And then you know what Turtle Boy did. And
Yeah.
yeah.
She knew how long to die.
Yeah.
Hoss long.
Yeah. It's like
She knew it.
Shakespeare. How
She knew.
long to
Everybody
die in the
knows it.
cold.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It's just, you're just watching someone that's a perpetual, I wouldn't even call her a liar at this point. She's just someone that's trying to, um, it's like she's in the middle of an active crime scene and she's trying to constantly act like nothing's wrong and this is fine and the whole room's on fire. And it's like, you realize that your kitchen's on fire right now? Oh no, everything's fine. You just sit down and we'll, it's like a cafe, like a restaurant where it's on fire. It's like, no, just sit down and we'll get you water and we'll get you something cooked. The kitchen is on fire right now. I can smell the smoke. And she just acts like this is fine.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It's like
And
she's in control.
Yeah.
If she just looks at you strongly, she'll get her way.
Yeah.
She raises her tone. She's used to bullying, I think, Matt and everyone else in her family.
Yeah.
Attorney Bederow in the car.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so here I am on I-95. I can't see you or see any questions, but I can talk.
Give us an update.
On today's events?
Yes.
Well, I think McCabe basically buried herself even further. She put the final dirt on her. She's just not going to be credible. She came back even more aggressive than she was yesterday. As we previously discussed, she came with her canned, contrived answers and broke glass in case of emergency. Whenever she couldn't answer a question, she came right out with the extended version of yesterday's demo about the harassment she got and really poured it on today. But from a legal standpoint, she should have made a judge very nervous, and you did a limiting instruction finally today, but she went over the top today when she started accusing Jackson, which by extension is accusing the defendant of being part of this. And that's what I've been telling you, I've been worried about for days, is that the jury was going to somehow attribute any of this nonsense to Karen Reed, and clearly McCabe did. So her demeanor again was terrible. Her answers again were terrible. And I think when you got to the Google search, I think the way they handled it, although it was like pulling teeth, it was unbearable at times to deal with such a recalcitrant witness like McCabe. She's just awful and going to fight on every point. But once you just kind of slog through it, I think he portrayed, Jackson, that is, portrayed a very solid image of explaining why there were the multiple searches and why it happened again. And the fact that when she tried to cover it up at a later time, she made another typo and it wasn't going to match and she had to do it again. I thought that was very effective. I thought it made perfect sense. And it also occurs to me why yesterday they spent so much time on dealing with her interactions with Kerry, because it sounds to me like they had the plan the whole time that they were never going to cross-examine her, and they're just going to deal with any statements that she alleges were made or any other evidence that she alleges by demonstrating that McCabe was the puppet master in controlling that process and, doing it that way. So I think McCabe was, again, just another disaster, confirmed like yesterday. I don't think she has any credibility. Her "I hit him" statement, it's just not reliable. There's no way I think that anybody could say with the burden of proof that the DA has that we find that is a credible statement and must have been said in light of all of the previous statements. The other witness was a little inconsistent on the taillight, which to me sounds contrived anyway. I thought Kerry sounded a little canned herself on certain things, but I think I can understand why they would not cross her. Just she had a very close connection to the O'Keefes that McCabe didn't. And I think if you compare the two of them, excuse me, McCabe was saying how hurt she was by this, and he was my friend, and look how she reacted, versus Kerry. How did she react in talking about her friend McCabe? Her friend John O'Keefe. That was real. Whatever else she had to say, I think it was clear that she was hurt at losing her friend, and the difference between those two women couldn't have been any more different. And I think that's going to do well for Karen Reed in that sense. But was I a little surprised that they didn't cross-examine Kerry? A little bit. I thought they would have dug a little, but I think they just wanted to stay away from too much raw pain that could potentially blow up in their face. But overall, I think the day was pretty good, and certainly the second half of the day was pretty irrelevant with the Aruba stuff. That, to me, was a big nothing burger.
Yeah, what did you think about those two witnesses at the end there, the two sisters?
Look, if they're trying to establish a motive, and the motive is that she ran him over because she was angry over the relationship and jealous, that's great, but she was with him an hour before the murder being lovey-dovey. I mean, we've been over this a million times, and so they had some problems in their relationship. But the idea that the motive that they're going to establish is because Proctor went on a fishing expedition a week after the murder looking for anyone who knew anything about their relationship, and they found these people who said we saw them arguing in Aruba, and the DA believes that calling them as witnesses because she might have thought that O'Keefe was kissing a girl who was essentially family, not literally, but practically speaking. That to me is just a big dud. It's a reach. It's a stretch. People have problems in relationships. They argue all the time. you'd think that there'd have to be something a little more concrete than an argument in Aruba, or even just general arguments to mow him down in cold blood and leave him to die like that. And if that's all they're giving the jury, I think they still have a serious motive problem. It's just too far out there. It's not original, and it's not powerful. And I think they ended the day with kind of a dud. And frankly, if they were going to do it the way they did it, I would have tried to end with Kerry, because from their perspective, that's probably the best witness they've had this whole trial, even though I'm not sure how much it really does for them. But compared to the other witnesses who have had any involvement in any of this, I think she was head and shoulders better than the rest of them.
Her crying seemed genuine versus.
I don't.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because it's like when you think about compared to Allie and the mom, the McCabe's. I mean, compared to all three of the McCabe's versus any of the Alberts, she was the most genuine out of all of them.
I would expect, in summation, that they will make reference to the juror. You saw the demeanor, you saw their credibility, and look how every time that we had McCabe on the ropes, she had two default responses. Number one, we were all shocked and just traumatized, in so much pain, which would be understandable if that's how she really felt. But she's an ice queen. She didn't display any emotion of being hurt by what happened. And I'm not saying she wasn't. I don't know. But that was not her primary concern. That's at least not the image that she projected. She projected anger, nastiness, on edge, and protecting herself and her family, which is not, if you go back again to yesterday, that's why they started the cross with there's family, and then who's not family, who are the outsiders, John O'Keefe and Karen Reed, and everyone else is inside that circle. But she was trying to show emotion to explain why she was having these meetings. We had to go check up on people. Now that's nonsense. Now for Kerry, it she talks to the parents. She went in and saw after the fact at the hospital. I mean, that's pretty powerful stuff. But on the same token, she clearly was under McCabe's, I don't want to say power or anything like that, but does anybody think it's normal about the way her interview occurred at McCabe's house with her family there, reporting to the Alberts what was happening, and we'll go talk to Lank tomorrow, and they brought her to Lank. So I think that they set up their so-called impeachment of Kerry in advance through McCabe, and I think that probably was a good technique. There are still some things.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Still a few things I would have asked her about. Maybe the taillight inconsistency in terms of the timing and the video, which clearly doesn't show it. But, they're going to leave that alone. And I suppose at some point they have that 5 a.m. video of the taillight, that she was picked up on the Ring camera, which does not appear to match what the taillight looks like as it was identified by the two women. And then last on this point was, we know McCabe said there was a crack, which doesn't really fit that image either. But what Kerry said was that there was a piece kind of sticking out in a jagged way that it might even catch your shirt or jacket or something like that, which also seems just hard to believe, I guess, as you visualize all this with the image that you saw. So they're going to pick it all up on this. But still today, the biggest thing is that you have McCabe locked in, unequivocal, without hesitation, without any ambiguity. There's no doubt it never happened. She never deleted any phone calls other than the Allie ones, which are interesting because she is an important witness to some extent. And she never made the Google search at 2:27, and she never deleted it. And let me just tell you a few things about Celebrite real fast. Every single DA's office and police department in this country uses Celebrite. I mean, I had cross-examination 2 days ago from a computer crimes NYPD detective on Celebrite related to a phone extraction in a case I'm dealing with right now. You see it all the time. they swear by it. And the reason they swear by it is because it's reliable. And when you extract a phone, it may not literally, there are reasons they may not pick up certain data. It doesn't get coded or whatnot, but it doesn't make mistakes. Like Mazza was saying, it doesn't check off deleted if it's not deleted. It doesn't do those kinds of things. And for her to basically say, I didn't delete it, I didn't delete anything, I didn't do this search, she is asking a jury to believe her over a science that everybody swears by, and she's undermining any scientific or computer data that the DA is going to use in this case, because according to their key witness, it doesn't matter what it says. If I tell you that's not the case, it's not the case. And clearly that's ridiculous, but she is, I mean, she's exposed. I'll be real curious to see how the defense expert is able to lock down the times and the deletions. And the only wiggle room that I can see for her out of this is if she didn't do the deletions, which I think would be even more concerning, which is, did Proctor or somebody else do that? Which I don't think the defense is going to argue. I think they want it to be McCabe for obvious reasons. But if you put all that together, I don't think the DA moved the needle too much today. They got a little evidence out of Kerry, but the only corroboration for it comes from McCabe, who is incredible on her face. And the evidence of Kerry isn't compelling in the sense it's not, I hit him, or anything like that. So I'm not sure where this got the DA overall today, although from their perspective, anything that's not a complete 100% disaster is a win. So maybe they can celebrate that little much today.
Excellent. You've got 2 dogs in your avatar. I think one is Lola.
Yeah,
what are the
Lola's the
dogs'
one. The lab is Winnie, and Lola is we don't really know what. We're working on that.
Winnie and Lola.
Yeah,
Oh.
Winnie's the lab. Lola is, we think, Pyrenees, maybe a little Jack Russell, a little lab.
Oh, fun.
I like to say she's 50% of 4 different breeds, but
It's like
one
all
of
my
these days,
favorites.
yeah, we're
I
gonna
love
get her.
labs.
Yeah, no, Winnie's great. So yeah,
And
those
Jack
are the
Russells
pups.
too. Yeah.
Yep.
Such good dogs, terriers. We had a question come up for you, Mark.
Sure.
They want to know, now that the McAlbert witnesses are done. Well, actually, I think Higgins on Friday is going to be important to this question. But let's say once Higgins is done, do you think third-party defense foundation is done? Is there enough evidence? Is it established?
Probably not, for the simple reason that the evidence presumably will be that O'Keefe never came in the house, and everyone denies it. And you have all of this evidence of them covering up something. So is that enough to allow them to make the argument that the prosecutor is so desperately trying to prevent? In a literal sense, probably not. Probably not. But, there was some Twitter talk about this today. But here's the bottom line. It doesn't matter.
That's
I mean,
right.
A third-party culprit defense sounds impressive, but all it really means, practically speaking, is what you can argue to the jury in summation. The evidence before the jury is what it is. And the jury can still not believe anything these people said, believed they covered up something. They're still going to argue that the police investigation was not only incompetent, but biased and motivated to help the Alberts hide something terrible. They're still going to argue that Karen Reed didn't do it. The only thing they're not going to be able to do in a literal sense is say, Colin Albert did this, because Lally will object and the judge will sustain it. That's not really what this is about, because the other thing is they don't know who did it. And they can still argue that he was not killed in a car accident. And I think they've done a good job with that. And by process of elimination, where else could it have been? So they're going to make all the same general arguments. And so even if the court says, I find that this argument, you haven't satisfied an evidentiary burden to allow it. And a lot of the yahoos are going to stand up and clap and say, look, I told you this case is over. They're screwed. Not at all. I mean, it's really semantics here. It's really not going to change the nature of their argument or the nature of the evidence or the nature of the doubt, because it's not like the court's going to strike all of this evidence about butt dials, deleted searches that never happen, Life 360 things that everybody says never happen, statements that McCabe doesn't own up, even though all the evidence shows that she made all these prior statements and recently fabricated some new ones. It's all going to be the same argument. I don't think it's going to matter in the least. And I think they know that, and they've always known that, because they didn't expect to have somebody stand up and say, oh, we saw the guy in the house and he did it. Now, if they have that, maybe they will, because one thing that hasn't happened here yet is the defense hasn't put on any evidence. And if they put on a quantum of evidence that O'Keefe was in the house, then they can make the full argument they want to make. Maybe they will. I mean, you can't judge it just based on the prosecution's evidence. You don't know what they have. They have the Apple Health data, which I think will tend to establish that O'Keefe was moving around and moving up and down, which is a strong circumstantial argument that he must have been going up and down stairs at that location, and the only location is the Albert House. We don't know if there's some other kind of witness, but I wouldn't worry about it one way or the other. It's just not going to matter.
Excellent. Getting a little feedback sometimes when I speak on here, so I'm going to mute you when I think when or are you doing it automatically? I think you actually I'll do it. There we go. Perfect. Mazda Media,
Sir.
you want to speak on anything that Mark just spoke about? Or
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, I think they got enough. I mean, enough reasonable doubt that's out there right now, and that's really at the end of the day what this whole trial is going to be about. Is that if the defense can establish reasonable doubt, then whatever they have out there that they might, whatever they think might go against Karen or whatever, just doesn't really matter because there's still reasonable doubt. There's still, I can't imagine that jury hasn't been sitting there the past 2 days and looking at Jen and her behavior, and it's been nothing but suspicious and shaky and nervous and combative with Alan Jackson. And in her defense, I'll say, when you're up against a defense attorney, that's the way it kind of goes anyways. But ultimately she seems like she has something to hide. She seems to evade questions. She seems to be indirect. She does not seem to be trustworthy. And I say this as someone that's, I've seen her in videos over the past year, but when you see her on the stand, it's just like, boy, she's just evading all these questions. And she's trying to, you can tell she's trying, like I said, she's got three minds about it, what the truth is, what her story is, and, basically whatever the hell else is in her mind. And I just, you can tell she's always plotting, she's always strategizing, she's always trying to get the upper hand, she's always trying not to fall into any loops. She does not seem to be very direct and straightforward in the way she answers. And when she is sometimes occasionally direct and straightforward, that's usually when it comes to something that's typically what we'd call a universal truth. It's a statement that we'd probably all agree on both sides, regardless of position, that there are certain things that are truth, right? Like they went for a search with Carrie and Jen, with Karen. We know that much. But then you hear today Carrie talking about Karen kicking the door and trying to get out, and Alan Jackson pressed her on that. Would you have stopped if Karen hadn't tried to get out of the vehicle, or whatever? It's just it, it, it just blows my mind that Karen was the only one that noticed him on the ground like that. And it's just, what if she didn't notice them, what was their plan? Just to keep driving around until eventually, they get a call a couple hours later, oh, they found him at this particular location, and whatever. It's just, it's it's a story that I'll say this and I'll say it again. I would not have anything to do with this story if I didn't think that there's something that didn't smell right here. I wouldn't have gone on my X page and started posting and done all the stuff I've done, and gone on shows and come on this show constantly if I didn't believe in what I believed. I could be doing anything else with my time right now. And, I usually don't ever believe in anything unless I believe it strongly, and in this particular case, I just see, Alan Jackson knows what he knows. He's done his research. He's cross-examined many people before in his tenure as a defense attorney. And I believe he might have even been a prosecutor at one point in years, but maybe that was Giannetti. But you can just tell. You talk to someone and they're constantly evading the questions. Sometimes it's not that they're being combative, it's that they're being evasive. Why can't you just answer this question directly? Why do you think that your phone shows a Google search at this particular time? And once that Cellbrite data came out, and I'm going to get back to that right now, there's just no getting around that. Your phone Googled that. And then, she tries to make a comment. Well, I wouldn't be smart enough to know that much about phones. Well, in that case, she said later in her testimony today, well, my kids are always yelling at me for leaving my windows open and deleting my battery. So is it too much for her to go to one of her kids and say, hey, can you help me erase my phone history? That's not out of question. That's not out of question at all. I'm not going to make accusations about it, but I will say that as much as she is trying to evade that question,
Yeah.
about her ability to delete something, just because she doesn't know how to delete something or doesn't know the inner workings of her phone doesn't mean that she does not have access to someone who does.
And also, it might also show she's like not tech savvy enough to realize that they can see you deleting stuff.
That's right. That's an even better
Like,
point.
I mean,
And I think it goes back to the original their original thought process was to keep this small, right? To keep it small, keep it local, keep it Canton, and keep the cover up concise. And basically, if they could just sweep it under the rug, they'd never expect any kind of higher authorities to basically lift the rug up and look under there and see what's going on. And I think that's probably what it was. So to that point, whether they had the technological expertise or knowledge to know that or not know that, they probably just at some point thought that they were they had enough cover up just to say, well, let's just delete them and nothing will ever come about. So if they did have enough technical knowledge, they probably didn't factor in that this story was going to explode the way it did. And she can blame Turtle Boy and Rolling Rallies all she wants, but let's face facts here. This is all about the murder of John O'Keefe, who's dead. And regardless of whoever feels harassed by anybody or picked on by anybody or called names by anybody, John O'Keefe is dead. He was murdered. We know that. And furthermore, we know that Karen Reed was falsely charged and overcharged with this particular murder. And that's why we all go back to the fact that we believe it's a cover up so strongly, because there's so much loose ends here. The fact that Michael Proctor knows those people and they constantly try to deny it. There's wedding footage of certain individuals at a certain individual's wedding. It's
they're all tied
irrefutable.
in. Chris
Yeah,
Albert, yeah. I mean, they're all tied in, and there's so much to it that you can point to. What's going to be interesting is on Friday. I want to ask the attorney first,
sure.
and then get back to you on this, because Higgins is expected to be up on Friday. I mean, that's what everyone is saying. It seems like that's what they were talking about. What do you guys think about Higgins?
Well, if he's being called as a prosecution witness, then I think we're in a situation where everybody needs to manage their expectations and predictions for some kind of dramatic Perry Mason moment of admitting, oh my God, what I saw or what I did or what I can't believe and all of that. I mean, he's being called as a witness by a DA in a murder case. He's not doing that. The odds that the DA would be calling him without being aware that he's made statements which would blow them out of the water is also, that's just not how this works. So you have to believe at some point his testimony is going to be something along the lines of, we were at the bar and we were just grab-assing or whatever they're going to call it this time. And we went back to the house. We never saw John O'Keefe. He's going to mirror everyone else. And me and Brian Albert looked at photos, which sounds totally normal, by the way, during this beer guzzling White Claw sponsored party. Colin was never seen because he left right away. I mean, you've heard this story 30 times already, and he's going to say, I left and I came back when they called me. The problem with him, he is major exposed as well on cross, and he's going to have, I imagine, a little more self-awareness than Jennifer McCabe, who has zero self-awareness. I mean, she thinks, you looking at her when she looks at the jury and tries to explain at a big moment when she head turns over there, she thinks she's doing a great job. She thinks they believe her, because I'm Jennifer McCabe of Canton and that's how it works. The problem with Higgins is he's a federal law enforcement agent and he can't get away with, I'm stupid and don't know how to close my phone or close the screens and do those kinds of things. By the way, McCabe's husband is an IT expert, so that's not believable either for different reasons. But Higgins isn't going to get away with that stuff. He's going to be a little more sophisticated in terms of knowledge about that. And he has some other major red flags, which are going to be very interesting to watch, such as punching in for work at 1:30 in the morning on a Saturday after chugging beers all day with the Alberts and McCabe's. And he's going to finish his paperwork on Saturday morning at 1:30 during a blizzard. Good luck explaining that. And then they're going to have his key entries and they're going to know whether that was rare or not. So that's a major problem for him. And then he's going to have the other problem of his phone. I mean, who but a law enforcement officer is going to know more about you can't do that? And then the question becomes, as we've heard, was he told by law enforcement on this case to do that? Which will be very troubling, and the jury will not like that. But either way, when this guy tossed his phone and claims I was told I could do that or I should do that by somebody either in the DA's office, the police department, whatever, that's going to be real tough for him to answer. And then finally, he's going to have to connect the second half of the Brian Albert butt dials, which I imagine he's just going to say, well, I don't remember getting those. But the problem is he's awake by his own pathetic story of going to the police department. He's not sleeping at home. He's working at the Canton Police Department, I believe, when these calls are allegedly being made. So he's going to know, he should know about those calls. I mean, what's he going to say? I was eating donuts? I don't think so. So I think he's got real problems. I think it's going to add to the whole jury's belief about the so-called cover-up. And to just one last point about the cover-up, it doesn't matter whatever Lally does with any other evidence that he claims points at Karen Reed and she alone is responsible and these people are victims and are being harassed. The jury is never going to get past, like you, me, and everyone else who has half a functioning brain, of the following. Then what were they doing running around on January 29th, making all these calls and texts, all of which were deleted, starting a chat group in which they would update each other about what everyone was saying, and we need to report on this, and I don't want you to say this in text, hanging out with all of the cops. I mean, it's all one giant cover-up of something. And what would a jury be led to believe other than something really bad involving John O'Keefe? Because why would they be covering up anything? It doesn't make any sense. If nobody ever went in the house, there's nothing to cover up. So I think, third party or not, the jury is going to be of the opinion, of course he went in the house, because these people are all hiding something very bad that they don't want us to know. And it's very important that we tell the media he never came in the house, according to them. Why? Why is that? So I think that Higgins, is the final piece to that puzzle, and he's going to be impeached substantially on all of these issues. And short of that, unless he does, by some standard, come clean, it's just going to look like another bizarre witness from the house who doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, definitely. Remember Mazza?
Yes, sir.
Remember the guy never came into the house. What's Higgins gonna say? What do you think about Higgins, Tom?
Jeez, I don't even know what he's gonna say. I think he's the absolute wild card in this whole thing. It's like we don't know if he's gonna say anything explosive. We don't know if he's gonna be absolutely, you know, mouth shut. But it's just his actions that night are kind of just suspicious too, appearing at the police station, and one of the cops there that was testifying earlier. Yeah, is it normal for him just to show up at like 1:30 in the morning plastered? Oh yeah. It's you know, it's like ET wearing flannel and going into the refrigerator to grab a Coca-Cola. I mean, it's nothing to see here. It's nothing out of the ordinary. And you get the guy apparently going down to a military base near the Cape and basically doing something to his phone down there. So it's going to be interesting. And then you get the proffer, you know, did he flip? What's the deal? But I mean, hey, if he wants to come out and just say exactly what the truth is and expose all the people involved in the cover up on Friday, please do.
You just sent me a link. What was that link
Yep.
about, Maz?
That's
While I
Paul.
posted up.
Yeah, that's Paul Cristoforo's link for the pop-up Double Good popcorn store. I think it's half the proceeds go to Karen Reed's defense fund on that.
I just posted in our YouTube chat. We're a good team.
There we go. That helps Paul out. So Paul's trying to win this all. Kelly Reed was so gracious to Paul this time around. She decided not to have a store. So Paul has a chance now to actually win this thing. So Paul, I hooked you up.
And that's also again, it goes to help the defense fund. If you want to support the free Karen Reed Defense Fund, you can also make a donation directly. Paul just posted it on the screen there. The defense team rocks, and this is why we need to donate to Karen Reed's Defense Fund, either directly or through popcorn from my store. So Paul's got a fundraiser going. You can also do it directly through, I think it's like a GoFundMe. What is it? Give, Send, Go. One of those. Just look, freekarenreed.net is the website, I believe they still are using to do it directly. So check that out. Turdy Bederow, just wondering if you have any, let me unmute you here. Do you have any final thoughts tonight? Anything you want to talk about or bring up before we let you go?
Well, one thing about Higgins, which is interesting too, he's got a lot to lose because he has a law enforcement career, presumably a pension, and I think he still works in some capacity of public service and whatnot. So it'll be very interesting. He's got a lot to be careful about, and would it surprise me too much if he becomes the one person who maybe decides the way out of this is to take the fifth? It wouldn't shock me. I'm not saying he'll do it, but that would be one way to avoid lying, literally speaking, but also avoid saying some awful things that would upset his family and whatnot. And in his mind, he could rationalize it by saying, I did get rid of my phone. I did go to the Canton police station, which I can't explain. I mean, you have to think he was talking to the cops or something. So is he maybe a candidate for the fifth? Maybe.
Awesome. I'm posting more links. We just got a question about the third party defense. Have you ever seen it used successfully?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's not that common, but it's not that uncommon. And I think people are building it up more than it is. All it is blaming someone else for what you're accused of. But you do that in almost every case in which your argument is your client didn't do it. It's just a little more personal, if you will. But it's not really that radical a thing. So it does get used. It can be used successfully. But it's really not critical in this case to determine who did it, or even just to say, we know she didn't do it. He must have been killed in the house. That doesn't require a third-party culprit blessing from the judge to make that argument. And in essence, you're arguing the same thing. You just may not be personalizing it. So to me, it's really a bunch of semantics. They're still going to argue the cops did a lousy job. They're still going to argue that the cops are involved in a cover-up with their, royal family of Canton and whatnot. And none of that's going to change on whether the judge formally says you can argue that somebody else literally did this or not. I just don't see it making any difference.
He also had a follow-up question too. He wanted to know if you've seen it. Have you ever seen it where arrest follow-up, like arrest happened from it?
No, no, not literally based upon a trial. I mean, there have been times where somebody gets tried for a crime and they're innocent, and eventually it leads to the ultimate perpetrator. But I can't say that because an attorney made a stellar argument that the cops all of a sudden went out and arrested someone. But I mean, look, there are times they get the wrong person. It happens, quite frankly, more than you think. It's not all the time, but it's a little discomforting how often, relatively speaking, it does happen, and it could very well be happening here.
Do you think the jury will notice this? This comment came in. They said Proctor interviewed the Aruba ladies before other witnesses who were there on the night of the 29th. Do you think the jury will get access to that and notice it?
I think that's a great observation and a great point, and certainly assuming, and by recollection, I think the lawyers have been careful to note when these police interviews have occurred so that there's evidence to argue. And I think that's a great point, and one I would make, that tells you that this was the tunnel vision, that they were more interested in tracking down a motive about a fight in Aruba, which is really much ado about nothing, rather than ever determining what, if anything, there's that expression again, happened in the house. And yeah, I would definitely emphasize that. I mean, you also want the jury not just to be on your side, but you want them to be emotionally on your side. You want them to be upset and feel sympathy for the client. And I think one way to do that is to really impress upon them that she never had a fair shake. They honed in on her because they had to protect the Alberts and McCabe's. They used their friends in the police departments at multiple agencies who, one of them was immediately, his first thought was to look for naked pictures of the defendant, wish that she was dead, and tell his buddies at the cop's lawn, the cop whose lawn it was, is fine. You make all those arguments. I think, yeah, you get the jury pissed off, you get them sympathetic, and then you say, look at these McCabe's, look what they did, look what they texted about the guy. None of those texts from any of them show anything other than John O'Keefe being a corpse that was unfortunately found on their lawn. And I think it couldn't be clear that that's how they viewed him. I mean, he got in the way of their comfortable life. And I'm sure they wish it didn't happen, whether they were involved or not. But they quickly went into self-preservation mode. And that was priority number one. They were looking out for number one. Everything was secondary, including O'Keefe's well-being. And I think that couldn't be any clearer. And I would make all of these points, from the Alberts, the McCabe's, to the police investigation that the question was asking about, and tell that to the jury. And they're potentially going to be really pissed off because they never made any serious effort to find out why he was on the lawn and what did the people in the house know, and why not? How do you not do that? I mean, it's law enforcement investigation 101. There's a dead body on the lawn. Did he ever go in the house? And if the answer is no, because I spoke to the people in the house for 5 minutes shortly after, and they all assured me that it didn't happen, and they all volunteered their cell phones, and there's nothing on it, which is not the case now. So all of these arguments, I think, come to the same conclusion, which is it will get the jury very upset and emotionally to have very little sympathy for these people, as opposed to the sympathy for Karen Reed, who they may very well look at and say, what a convenient patsy she turned out to be because of some kind of break in her taillight from something, and her making statements, wondering what happened and running around in the emotional state that she was in, if she just on the fly became the convenient patsy. And I don't think that's a ridiculous argument at all. And it may very damn well be true. So that's clearly reasonable doubt, I think.
Now, people are asking where you're at right now, Mark. Some people are also asking if you're having dental procedure because they can't see you. So I should just say you're traveling. Are you coming to Boston right now?
I am. I am about 10 miles outside of Hartford right now. Just, got off 95 on 91 now. And yep, I'm on my way because as you know, we've got a big one tomorrow night.
Be
Game
careful.
4.
Let's not let the state police know his whereabouts, Mike. We don't want them to pull him over and give him.
Yeah. He's flying.
He's traveling up.
He's in a chopper.
He's going
flying
eastern New York to Vermont, New York. Then he's cutting in from New Hampshire.
He's flying. It's a chopper.
Well, the funny thing is, I'm going to be in the area where this all happened at some point tomorrow. Maybe I'll do
Oh no! Did we lose him?
Yeah, we lost him.
Yeah, you lost.
Are you there?
There he is.
Mark?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
I'm
you
here.
for a
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I was going to say, the cops got me. No, I was going to say, I'm going to actually be driving right by, not too far from Dedham, Canton, and whatnot, and I should go do an incognito drive-by and do a crime scene visit, which is probably one more serious crime scene visit than anyone in the police departments did.
Just be very careful.
I promise not to creep up.
I know you're a lawyer.
And I'm not going to creep up and take pictures and then run away.
Yeah, they're not going to do a coffin daffer?
That may qualify as a rolling rally, Mark.
Well, God, I'm sure I'll see all the signs and everything that everyone has out there. It's crazy. But, we'll be right by there tomorrow.
That's awesome.
Excellent. There's some more questions come in. This one is, do we believe that Higgins took a proffer? I'll answer this one because we've answered it a million times. We don't know. All we know is what Yannetti said. Yannetti said it. None of us know, right, guys?
No, we don't know. But, I mean, if the defense attorney said that Higgins made a proffer at a proffer session, a queen for a day, then A, you have to believe that that's true. That would be credibility suicide to make that claim, and it's not true. And by the way, if it wasn't true, he would have been hearing about it from Higgins' attorney, because the last thing you want to be doing is making public statements about a federal law enforcement agent who is, potentially cooperating. I say potentially because a proffer does not mean that you're cooperating. That would be something that wouldn't happen. Number two, you probably should draw some significance on the fact that Yannetti even knows this, because that means by definition the federal government told him. And then the question becomes, why did they feel that that was something in fundamental fairness that the defense should have, which ought to make you think, at least potentially, there could be something in there that the feds realize is something that the defense should be aware of. And that's very interesting. I don't know what that could be, but the fact that they would have disclosed that, they wouldn't have had to disclose, they can pick and choose what you get. And what they're going to give them are things that they think that they're entitled to get a fair trial given what's going on. And if one of those things was what you would call an FBI 302, a report summarizing Higgins's proffer, well, that's interesting, because God knows what's in there. But it's got to be something.
That could be the goal. Yeah, that could be a jackpot.
Maybe.
It's another question. You guys are awesome. Do you think John O'Keefe's injuries will tell its own story? I mean, I think that's huge, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, the prosecution will get the first chance to tell that story when they call the medical examiner. And of course, she'll be subjected to, I imagine, some very strenuous cross-examination about your bizarre conclusion that you couldn't possibly tell us a manner or cause, except for the fact that it wasn't the result of a fight or something, words similar to that. I think she's probably going to acknowledge that she was asked to make that statement by somebody, probably Proctor or somebody like that. But the real key is she in a position to medically defend it? That's the key. Because if it's a medically sound opinion, well, then it could be powerful. But I don't know how, and of course I'm not qualified medically to understand it, but that's the real key to look out for, is whether she can medically defend it through a cross-examination, and then how the jury feels about it when a defense expert who is just a medical examiner from another county in another state tells you exactly why that could be from a fight and tells you that those arm injuries potentially are consistent and could therefore be from a dog bite, and presumably the DA's expert is going to say that can't be either for whatever reason. So the injuries, I think, will tell a large part of the story, and it will be very interesting to hear whether both medical examiners can offer an opinion, which experts do. They're the only witnesses where opinions are what you do, and whether they can say to a degree of medical certainty, that's the buzzword that a medical expert would use, about whether his injuries are consistent with being smashed into in reverse at a distance of however many feet at 24 miles an hour, whatever it is. And that's going to be real interesting to hear, because I'm curious what the point of impact would be. And I don't know how, from a non-medical standpoint, their theory can be anything other than the back of his head. And why would he be looking the other way and not know that somebody's backing up in the snow, mind you? It just doesn't make any sense to me. So,
None of it
but
does.
yes, that's why I think the injuries will tell the story. And I don't know if a medical examiner could tell you also that if you were hit standing prone and, paying attention, but not bracing yourself, but just kind of standing like a normal person standing on a corner, that if you were standing prone, not moving, not doing anything, and not putting your body in a position to push or make resistance, and you get clipped dead on by a car at 24 miles an hour, what kind of injuries would you expect? And another interesting point would be, how far would you go in terms of, are you getting launched? Are you getting dragged? And I don't know if they're going to be medical examiner is going to be able to answer that. Or, also you can use hypotheticals with an expert. And, if you change the hypothetical and you say, suppose a guy was wearing a brown rope belt, was it a rope belt? I think from the bar, I can't remember. That would you expect clothes to go flying off, or not even just clothes, but a leather belt wrapped around and knotted or tied in some fashion on your body to go off and disappear, right? Not just go off, disappear. So yes, the answer to the question is, I think his injuries are going to be a huge part of the case. And for another reason, you also know what's coming down the pipeline, which is going to be the march of the chucklehead witnesses, who are all going to come in and say that this just doesn't appear to match the damage to the car, to him, and the scene, and that this is just not the cause of what would have happened to him. The accident reconstruction people. So you combine that with the medical testimony, and on top of everything else, and again, where are you going to find proof beyond a reasonable doubt to a moral certainty? That just seems like an impossible standard.
Another comment came in. Any thoughts on Colin Albert fight video that surfaced today? Turtle Boy released a fight video with no audio. I don't know if you've all seen it. I've seen it. Have you seen it?
I
gotta head out here, guys.
It.
I gotta roll.
Okay, Maz is gonna go. Sorry,
Yeah,
Maz. Have a good night.
Yeah, free Karen. Yep.
So
you too. I know.
Take care. I mean, the first concern I would have, even if you wanted to use it, is authentication. The rules of evidence are a thing here, and in this case, potentially an obstacle. How are you demonstrating that's a real recording? How are you demonstrating that's Colin Albert? I mean, let's be honest. You're not calling Aidan Carney as a witness, okay? And he's not going to give up the source of whoever gave him that. And even if you did, how did the source get the video? Who's identifying Colin? So not to disappoint people, it's one of those things where it's just another example of them doing things probably about, they lie about everything apparently, but in terms of its use in court, it's a foundational problem. Even if it is him, I don't know how, under the rules of evidence, you're going to get that in and get it authenticated enough to, number one, even have it admitted, and number two, to convince the jury that it's him. I mean, could you tell it was him? I'm not sure. It kind of looked like him.
It
but
looks like him, but I can't prove. I mean, who knows?
There's
I would
one
assume
other.
that Turtle Boy knows for a fact. He said
Well,
there's other videos coming too.
let me
So
give you another practical concern, and this is nothing to do with the admissibility, but this has to do with quit while you're ahead.
yeah,
If that video were to come in, even Lally would cross on the source from which the defense learned, and it would be
right.
Turtle
Turtle
Boy.
Boy.
In light of what's going on in this trial right now, do you want that?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Not for this. If you had a video of an Albert confessing to John O'Keefe being in the house, I'd say absolutely.
Right.
But for something like this, I don't think you would do that. And then the last point on this is there's this concept of collateral issues, which is lawyer talk for if something is not that significant, that there comes a point where judges just may not allow mini trial after mini trial. And I'm not sure that the judge would allow extrinsic evidence about Colin Albert's claim that I've never been in a fight, and it turns out, oh, I forgot 5 years ago. But I mean, I just don't think for the courtroom it's a thing, but certainly in the back, I mean, it's another example of how do you believe anything that these people tell you? I mean, you're in a situation where if I were summing up on these people, primarily Jennifer McCabe, I mean, I would say something like, if she told you today was Wednesday, would you believe her without looking at your watch to confirm? I mean, would you believe anything that she says that's not corroborated? And you would do that with some of these other Alberts as well. But a fight that Colin Albert had 4 years ago or whatever, I don't think it's a thing.
Definitely. That was an interesting video, to say the least. It's
Yeah.
interesting for people who follow in the case, but I definitely agree with you on that. It doesn't seem like it's going to be useful in the case.
And I think also it's the Turtle Boy thing. I mean, it's not a criticism of him, but I don't think the defense at this point wants to emphasize that he's providing them with the source of information, which I also wonder if that had something to do with them staying away from the little impromptu party at the McCabe house yesterday. Because I think other
Right.
things being equal, I would have crossed on that. That would have been maybe the first thing out of my mouth this morning, because you can't really lose. I mean, if she says it's nothing, she says people came over to support me, you don't believe her anyway, so why not put it out there? But my suspicion is that these are seasoned lawyers and they're reading the room and they're dealing with things that we're not thinking about. And at this point, I don't think they want to be associated with Turtle Boy stuff when the judge has allowed just ridiculously to turn it into a complete sideshow with that stuff. So I think what they do is just stay away from it unless it's something that is a nuclear bomb. At that point, you have to do it.
Question came in about the prosecution is totally minimizing Trooper Proctor.
Yeah, good luck with that. This case, that you can be sure that the defense is going to wrap this whole case around his neck like an albatross. You can't. I mean, how can they do that? He took over the case within a day and immediately started looking for nudes, texting his buddies, and protecting the Alberts, meeting with all of these people, discussing the possibility of him or his wife getting a gift, denying that he knew these people when he clearly did. He and his partner did all of the interviews. He's the one that is in direct relationship with the SUV for a period of time when the evidence was found. He's the one that would have been in position for the defense theory to plant any DNA or forensic evidence or even other evidence on the lawn, such as, 45 pieces of glass, which, by the way, they're going to regret that, I think, because he probably should have done research on polycarbonate and that sort of thing that there's been discussion about, that it's basically, it's like bulletproof glass kind of stuff. It doesn't shatter like that. But anyway, the idea that they're going to be able to keep Proctor out of this is a joke. Now, they may tactically decide maybe we shouldn't call him so that Jackson has to direct examine him rather than cross-examine him. But the risk of doing that is, it's a fastball down the middle of the plate for their summation, which is they didn't even call the lead investigator because they were terrified and wanted to hide it from you. So they may have to just hold their nose and do it. It's not a good choice either way, but it illustrates perfectly how flawed this case is. And if you can't call the lead investigator who did all the investigative work, that maybe you should reevaluate what you're doing in the first instance in prosecuting the case.
Excellent. Another comment came in. Says $5. Lally is gonna say John clunked his head on the hydrant.
Well, he can say that all he wants, and again, medically, maybe that works. I don't know, but then you get into other sub-medical issues, such as it appears to be kind of a straight, deep gash. Now, could it be on the thing that abuts out of a fire hydrant? I don't know, maybe, but that seems kind of speculative, but it also ignores what I think is the critical issue in that hypothetical. That would mean that that's not the point of impact. So where on his body did he get hit so hard, by the way, and let's be clear about this, so hard that according to them, it shattered into 46 pieces a polycarbonate taillight.
You're right.
I'm telling you that
Yeah,
based on what I know just from reading,
you can't piece that
that's
together.
not possible.
Yeah.
If you fired a bullet from a 9mm into that, you're going to get a bullet hole. You're not going to get 45 pieces of glass. This makes no sense.
Yeah, it makes no sense at all. Another good question came in about Turtle Boy. He wrote about a conflict of interest with the judge. Do you think that's having an influence on the judge and why she's letting him get brought into trial like this?
Letting Turtle Boy get brought in?
Yeah, and like she's got a beef against Turtle Boy because he wrote about her.
Well, she may. That's human nature, right? If you're the judge or you're an Albert or a McCabe, you can understand why they hate him. Now, of course, a judge is supposed to be, wait for it, judicious. So certainly, if there's even an appearance of a conflict, she should be gone. Is she presiding over his case? She can't be, is she?
No, she's not.
Right. Okay. So, in other words, the question is, does her hatred for him mean that she's treating Karen Reed unfairly?
Yes.
It's hard to say. Judges are supposed to recuse themselves if there's a conflict or there's an appearance of a conflict. And an appearance doesn't have to be an actual conflict. It just has to be one of those things where you say, it kind of sounds a little bit. Now, I know that there's been discussion that her brother represented Chris Albert when he ironically mowed someone over and killed them. And I know there's other discussion about whether she sold property or something with someone else. If that's all true, then it's hard for me to understand why she wouldn't have just stepped away on the theory of an appearance of conflict. And she obviously didn't. And then you look at some of the rulings, and the problem is this. Most of her rulings previously that were bad, to me, they were just judges. They're inconsistent. It's what they do. She didn't really do anything that appeared literally biased, as opposed to, I don't understand what she's doing with the sidebars and the sighing and all of that. But we've kind of crossed the Rubicon a little bit with this campaign of harassment evidence. And that's where you also start to wonder, did she allow that because she, and this is a kind of thing where if there's an appeal, which I don't believe there will be, because I don't think there'll be a conviction, but you can be sure that they'll put this all together and say that her ruling to allow all of these people to say that they were harassed was error. But they'll also bootstrap that into an argument saying one has to wonder if she made such a legally, in my mind, indefensible ruling, partly because she has animosity towards the blogger she's allowing the McCabe's to go after and Alberts to go after, because he criticized her too. And this whole idea of throwing him out of the courtroom for all of those witnesses. So, yeah, it looks bad now. I mean, I don't think there's any way around it. I don't know that it's going to matter in the long run, but the appearance at this moment doesn't look good in light of her inexplicable ruling that a simple thing like Allie McCabe explaining that she didn't turn over her text messages with Colin Albert for 9 months because I didn't know and no one suggested that he was potentially a witness, somehow led to it being appropriate for Jennifer McCabe to give a 10-minute soliloquy about the harassment that she's undergone and her family has undergone, and blaming the defense for part of that and all of that nonsense. Does that look like that the judge screwed up? And might you wonder, could that be because of her detesting Turtle Boy and everything else? Yeah, you might think that. And that's a reasonable thought. And if that's a reasonable thought, might that be an appearance of a conflict? I would say so.
This is a common question. People are asking, is Jen still a witness if her testimony is over? She could be, but probably not, right?
Yeah, no. I mean, do you really think that they want to spend another 30 seconds,
No,
let alone 2 hours with, I mean, and by the way, does anybody, and remember, what's the most important thing? They're trying to please the jury, not us, not anyone else. At the end of the day, they don't care what anybody thinks other than the 12 people who deliberate on the case. And to bring her back for more of this nonsense, it doesn't move the ball forward. It's going to make the jurors want to bang their head against the floor. And moreover, what else is there to do with Jennifer McCabe? I mean, at this point, I mean, it's like fighting. It's like the fight scene in the Monty Python. I mean, she has no arms and no legs, but she's still fighting. I mean, she's just never going to stop, right?
Right.
You know what I'm
like
talking
the zombies.
about?
The zombies keep
Yeah,
going.
I think it's Monty Python and the Holy Grail. You know what I'm talking about. But
Yep.
you've got no arms, you've got no legs, and let's go. I mean, she'll just keep going and going. She has no self-awareness, and if you continue to, like, figuratively speaking, slice her and dice her anymore, well, what's the difference if she's 99.4% discredited or 99.5%? I mean, enough.
Done. It's done.
No, she's done.
Done. We're done
Yep.
here.
Yep.
Unless something else big comes out that we don't know about, which, who knows?
Right. And by the way, we always been talking about the difference between direct and cross-examination. If you're Alan Jackson, do you really want to call Jennifer McCabe and ask her non-leading questions? Because you can't start with the yes or no, or you don't get to do this. You have to just open it up and let her talk, and they're not doing that. No way.
Yeah, definitely not. There was a question about the federal grand jury, a couple of them.
Okay.
They want to know if the grand jury could have indicted someone and sealed it or didn't. I mean, they're asking about, like, why don't we know about this federal grand jury?
Well, I mean, there could be sealed indictments. That's a possibility, which of course at some point must be unsealed. It could be that they're not done. The feds move at a slow pace. Unlike what you've seen in this case, they do something usually called investigating before they charge. So, I mean, there could be sealed indictments. There are times where they have sealed guilty pleas. I'm not suggesting that's the case here. And there are things that you don't even know that have already happened. It's hard to say whether that would be the case here. I tend to doubt it. But I mean, I think if there were indictments already that literally would have impacted this case, and if they were witnesses in this case, that they probably would have taken it down, unsealed it, and they would have killed the trial in the process. Now, another reason they wouldn't do that is because they want to continue to develop more targets and potentially more indictments. And by publicizing it, what do? You give people notice. But on the other hand, everybody knows about it. So there's no real element of surprise here anyway. I mean, don't you think that all of these Alberts and McCabe's and everyone else are looking over their shoulders, at least aware of the fact that they're to some extent on the radar? So my feeling, just based on general experience, I have no knowledge what they're doing or not doing, is that probably there aren't, not yet. And they would not want to be turning over materials on a private investigation that has not yet resulted in anything. So my guess is no, not yet anyway.
Excellent. Another question that came up, and I don't think any of us know. We've talked about this, but who knows? Maybe Mark has some further thoughts. Question came up about all of a sudden they're talking about Brian Higgins' Jeep. What's up?
I don't know. I mean, the Jeep to me is it's their own. It's the DA's own case, and they have a ton of inconsistencies about the Jeep. And the best theory so far that I've come up with or thought about, along with looking at some views of some others, is that the key witnesses who don't have a Jeep there are the three amigos, the Ryan Nagel, the girl whose name escapes me at the moment, and Ricky, whatever his name is. And, I think we all agree that on a sliding scale of top to bottom in terms of credible witnesses, they're pretty high up the list. And they seem to do the DA's case more harm than good in terms of, because they were there when the SUV was there. And it doesn't sound like she could have done what the DA alleges based upon the testimony of those three. So I wonder if that is an almost backhanded way of attempting to impeach their own witnesses and say they're not that reliable. Not that they're lying, but they're just not reliable. The other thing about the Jeep, I suppose, could it be used to shield activity on the lawn, maybe, from ring cameras or whatever? But other than that, it's, I guess we'll have to wait for Higgins. I don't have a full understanding of what is going on with the Jeep. I mean, it's also been used effectively by the defense as a way to try to discredit the reliability of some of the McCabe's and Alberts and people in the house. But I don't know why the DA would be making such a big deal out of the Jeep with inconsistent testimony, unless they're trying to underhandedly impeach their own witness on a few points. That's the best I have at this moment, anyway.
Excellent. What are your final thoughts tonight? I've asked you that a couple times, but I'm just I think this would be a good time.
I thought it was an interesting day just because McCabe was McCabe, and worse than the day before, and even more defiant, if there is ever such a thing. I think she made huge mistakes going back to her playbook of, when challenged, lashing out with "I'm a victim," and I don't care what anybody says. I know 100% what happened, and I will stare at you, as Mazda was saying earlier, in the face of forensic evidence, prior statements. If the cops wrote it, they're wrong. I mean, everybody's wrong. I put up kind of a humorous tweet about this earlier that if anybody was keeping score, she's now blamed at least 5 or 6 cops, her own grand jury testimony, forensic Celebrite evidence, and a whole bunch of other things for as an explanation they're wrong and she's right. So I think the way it ended today with her denying making deletions and the Google search was terrible for the DA, and I thought Jackson handled that really well with explaining the theory, why there were 3. That was really good. And then I thought the other witness was as good as the DA has, just because at least she showed real sympathy. And I don't know that she established, if anything, she might have established some curious statements by Karen Reed. I say curious because they're not directly incriminating, but it also could demonstrate where McCabe got the idea to throw this on her, because if she heard the same statements that relate to possibly hitting him and they have a problem, I mean, I think that would help explain that. So I was admittedly very surprised that they asked no questions on cross. I did not expect that, but I guess I understand why they did it. I think they're just, again, going to use McCabe. And then I think they ended the day with a complete dud in trying to present what they probably thought was dramatic evidence of, a big battle in Aruba and John O'Keefe not happy in his relationship and psycho Karen yelling at him drunk in front of, this other woman's sister. And the sister, came off with a lot of sass and, she sucks and, fuck you too, pardon my French.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that all landed very flat just because, not that they're lying, but who cares? I mean,
Right.
it just, is that a reason to literally mow him down much later in time? And more importantly, less than an hour after they were in the bar having a good time. And, I think they're going to try to buttress that evidence with these text messages that they allude to where she's saying how much she hates him. But I mean, I don't know how many people there have never been told by, a paramour or former paramour how much they hate you. I mean, it makes you very unique if that's never happened. So
It happens a lot.
I can tell you from personal experience, it happens a lot. Or
Even
has
in
happened.
healthy relationships.
Even in healthy relationships, there's always, there's always words that happen. I mean, that's human
That's
nature.
life.
So that's right. So I think but I want to be clear. I think by the DA's scale, because they're working with such a curve here, to them, it was a better day than they've had in general, just because they actually called a witness who demonstrated, I thought, some degree of sincere emotion. But in terms of moving the needle, not much. And if that's going to lead them into Higgins and the problems that we talked about with him later, that's going to be a tough cliffhanger for them over the holiday weekend about what he is. And then at that point, they need to call a medical examiner and do something with the car and just get it out. I don't know what they think they're doing, but this 6-week long big reveal is just going to put people to sleep. And frankly, I mean, do you even remember the testimony from the first week of the firefighters and EMTs that they claim is so important? And jurors took notes. I get it, and the lawyers are going to sum up on it, but it all gets lost in the shuffle. And it's just, they're probably trying this case 60% too long. I mean, they could trim so much fat, and they're not. And so I don't think the bottom line has changed. It's just by a sliding scale. I think the DA had a better day, being relative, than the other days that they've had. But that's the equivalent of, instead of failing the test, getting a D. So I don't think it really does much. And I think the result here still appears to be, unless something dramatic happens, pretty well determined what this is going to be.
Me too. But you never know. Like we had a comment from JFK today, who's who's had some experience with the judicial system, said
Right.
you never know what's going to happen. You never know in court.
No, I mean the jury is the jury, and they do. Hopefully, they do what they're supposed to do, and they should not be paying attention to any outside noise. Which let me give you one thought on that, which is very interesting. You want a fair trial for the defendant. You want, the constitutional right to a fair trial only goes to the defendant, but the DA is entitled to a fair trial too, and all of that. And so the question is, you don't want them being subjected to the outside noise, which is, it's crazy. I've never seen it on a case where there's just so much nastiness and personal attacking of people just for having views that aren't in line with their own. But the irony of all this nonsense and McCabe shrieking today is, if ever there was a thought that the jury over a long weekend or something is ever going to be inclined to say, what is going on?
Yeah, they're going to look now. Yeah, where
I'll
they have
tell
this
you
big
what.
break. Exactly.
I hope they don't, and I would never obviously encourage them to do that. They're not listening anyway, hopefully. But my point is, the likelihood of them doing that has grown
Goes up.
exponentially.
Yeah.
Not just up, exponentially. I mean, she's saying there's some guy, Turtle Boy, harassing me, an online blogger. I mean, she basically invited jurors to go look. And
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
problem, ironically for her, is, God forbid they go look. It ain't good for her, and it ain't good for the DA.
Good point. I'm looking forward to speaking to you again on Friday, I hope.
Yeah, no, we'll talk, and just keep watching, and I can't wait to see what Higgins has to say. It's fascinating.
Yes, on Friday, and go Celtics tomorrow night. You're going to be at the game. People can look for you.
We'll be there.
Thank you so much for calling in on your drive tonight, Mark.
Okay. Well, you help keep me awake, so that's good. We're almost
Perfect.
to
What you should be there? What, a couple more hours?
We should be there in about 45 minutes. It looks like, so we're good.
Awesome. So you're
Yep.
good.
We're good.
Safe rest of your trip, Mark. Thank you so much.
You. Okay. Take care.
You too. This is Mark Bederow, attorney Mark Bederow, on the show tonight. He's coming up to Boston. He's shipping up to Boston from New York to come see Game 2, Boston Celtics, Eastern Conference Finals tomorrow night. Driving up right now. Thank you so much for calling in tonight. Thank you, Mazda Media, too. I kind of screwed that up tonight. I lost track of time. We've been going, though. I mean, I think Maz will forgive me after last night's show. We all sacrificed. That was a late night for all of us, all three of us. They got some nicknames. The trifecta. It's Mazza, Mark, and Mike. Someone else called it the 3Ms. The 3Ms. We got like a gang here. The 3Ms. What I want to do is to close out the show, I obviously always thank the listeners and the supporters and the Venmos. We had a lot of them. I hope I posted them all. I think I did on the super chat. A couple of Venmos came in, at least one. I also wanted to close out and watch more Jennifer McCabe. It was so good today. We need to watch this again together. It's one of those things. I feel better when I watch it with all of you. So let me bring up the Venmo and the Cash Apps and just make sure I got all that business taken care of. And the Venmo, one came in from Brian. He had a comment. We actually asked the question, which a couple people had. So he wanted to know about the federal grand jury. His question was, since there was a federal grand jury and grand jury is only convenient to indict people, right? Does that mean someone was indicted in the federal investigation last year and it's still under seal? ? Or the alternative that the panel decided not to indict. Those are two good options. There's also a third option, that it's not over yet. So basically, you're right. The three options are they have a sealed indictment, which we wouldn't know about. They're holding on to it, which would indicate they're working on bigger indictments, or they haven't found anything and they closed down the grand jury investigation. But that doesn't seem to be the case at all, actually. What seems to be obvious is that this federal grand jury is still ongoing. They maybe not have people on the stand, but I think the investigation is ongoing for some reason. Seems like a big deal. And it doesn't mean they're going to get a conviction. This is a pretty big deal, and it may not be the easiest case to bring convictions. I don't know. There's a lot of mystery to it. A lot of mystery. We don't know. I think Mark covered it pretty good, too. A couple more super chats came in. Scott McGinnis, he just said Higgins turned on the organized crime family. Either they take care of it themselves or I don't even know what that means. Higgins and throw him into a no man's land against his will. Who knows? Who knows about that one? Cynthia, $4.99. She says, great show tonight. Always great. Thank you so much, Cynthia. Got some great people who listen and send us super chats. I love y'all. You send good questions too, good comments. Oh, is Bob from Defense Diaries in here? I just saw him. Wow. Hey, Bob. Like to get you on the show. You should hit me up. Like what you do. Bob from the Defense Diaries is in the chat right now. What's up? I got to follow up with a bunch of guests too. I got to get the Galera on the show. I really need to get him on. And Melanie Little, that's another one I got to follow up with. Franz Marks says, nice job, Mike, as usual. Thank you so much. Love Bob. Yeah, Bob's good. All right. I'm going to play a little more video. We got to watch this video tonight. This is like good stuff, man. Yeah, Melanie Little kicks ass. I love her. She's so good. Is my clock working? No, it's not. It's a battery. It's battery operated. This room that we're in, we don't really use it. The only time we use it is when we do our shows. It's also like a guest room, but we have an extra. It's like a second guest room, and we don't even use it for that. It's more like almost a storage room at this point, and a studio room. So this room, yeah, the clock is not. I don't. I love that clock actually, but if no one's down here, I'm not going to put two batteries in. So funny. You guys notice everything. You got me to fix the smoke detector last night. That was going for months, and you guys didn't even let me know until last night. I freaked out. That was the funniest thing. And then you're making fun of the curtains. The curtains are nice. I like the curtains. I'm defending the curtains. It's my girlfriend, she heard that and she wasn't happy, I don't think. But she says that the curtains are made by artists. They're like designed by real artists, and she feels like she's supporting art by having those curtains. She likes the curtains. I like the curtains too. All right, so let's play some video. You guys are picking apart everything lately, which I like. It's fun. And like, I'm glad you picked apart the beeping noise because I destroyed that. I'm gonna fix it now this weekend, the smoke detector. And you also, someone noticed that my camera was blurry. I thought I had a bad camera. It was smudged. I didn't realize that it was smudged. And you told me to unsmudge it. Ever since I've had a good camera. So you guys, if you see something wrong, just let us know. Because we do try to fix things. And you do inspire me. So thank you so much. Actually, I got an unsmudged camera. And I also have no beeping going on in the background. Thank you so much. We aim to please over here.
Of the incident in which
and you know what
Sergeant
we're going to do right now?
Back to 34.
We're going to play a little more of this. I'm going to come back. I'm going to take a quick break. I need to do something very quickly, but I'll be back. Yeah, you like the haircut? I got a new haircut for you all too. And she cleaned it up. Yeah. So I'm going to take just a quick camera break for a second, and we're going to play more of this video, and I'll be back. So stick around. Don't leave. Please don't leave. All right, cool. Let's play some more of this.
For Fairview to give you an opportunity to tell him whatever it was that you thought was important, correct?
Was that a full report or is that just an excerpt from it,
Well,
that paragraph?
That right there is a full report of that incident of Sergeant Lang going back to 34 Fairview. Would you agree?
Well, that's not a full report of what I said, but if that's his full report, it's his full report.
Okay. And in this report, what he writes that you said to him.
Objection. The objection is sustained.
Isn't it true that what you actually told Sergeant Lank when he returned is that while driving around with her and Roberts looking for the victim, Miss Reed said something to the effect of, quote, "I hope I didn't hit him," end quote. Isn't that what you told him?
Yes, because she said that when we were driving around.
And then you went on to say
Mhm.
that, quote, she, Karen Reed, made these statements again at the scene when the victim was discovered, correct?
Correct.
And then you went on to say, she, Karen Reed, I'm sorry, that you thought that Reed may have made these same statements in front of a police officer, but she was not sure, meaning you were not sure, correct?
I was not sure if she made what the police officers may have heard. That report is his recollection. My recollection is I told him that she said, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him." And I told him that he should ask the responders if they heard that, because it was a great possibility that they heard it as well.
But none of that, you'll agree, you just read the report, none of that is in his report.
That's a very brief report.
I didn't ask you if it was brief, I asked you if it was in it, correct?
Correct.
And that's a report of a conversation that he had at 34 Fairview with you for the specific purpose of memorializing what you told him, correct?
Correct.
And what you told him, according to Sergeant Lank, is she said one phrase, "I hope I didn't hit him," correct?
That's what's in the report.
All right. And again, this was 2.5, 3 hours after the incident, not 2.5 years later, correct?
Correct.
Ms. McCabe, we talked yesterday about this unrecorded meeting that you had in front of Sergeant Lank's home on January 30th. Do you remember that conversation?
I remember the conversation, yes.
Have you had any other home visits with any other police officers involved in this case?
I went to drop off. It was not a visit. It was myself with Kerry Roberts dropping her daughter off. There was no involvement of Mike Lank on this day.
Have you been to the home, the personal residence of any other police officer involved in this case? Ever?
Yes.
Tell me who?
Kevin Albert.
Who else?
I went to Elizabeth Proctor, the wife of Michael Proctor's house.
Who does Elizabeth Proctor live with?
Michael Proctor.
So you actually went to Michael Proctor's personal residence, didn't
I
you?
did, yes.
That was in September of what year?
23. I went over.
2023.
Yes.
Why'd you go to Michael Proctor's house in September of 2023?
I met Elizabeth Proctor in approximately July or August of 2023. We are two mothers that are being viciously terrorized and harassed by social media. Things that were stated in this courtroom and allegations that were made have torn our lives upside down. We receive hate letters saying that they
I'm
hope
asking you
things.
why? I know you want to give a narrative.
She gets to answer this, Mr. Jackson. The door's open.
Your Honor, if she could answer the question why she went to the house as opposed to the narrative behind her motivation.
It sounds to me like she's explaining why she went to the house. The door was open, Mr. Jackson.
Go ahead.
We receive letters, we receive emails, we receive calls. People drive by our house. There was a rolling rally outside of my house where people just screamed at us. They take pictures of our children. They took a picture of my daughter and put semen on it and said property of some named blogger that I think the defense is very familiar with. So that is why myself and Elizabeth Proctor got together. Michael Proctor was not home. We are two mothers trying to get through the unthinkable together.
So you were upset about the public outrage concerning your family's involvement in the death of John O'Keefe.
I was outraged because I am a state witness that is being tortured because of lies.
Because of public outrage concerning your family's involvement in the death of a police officer, correct?
No, it's a social media witch hunt.
I see. So you decided that the best way for you to address that angst that you were feeling is to go to the lead investigator's home, personal home, in this case, correct?
I went to visit Elizabeth Proctor.
So
Michael
just-
Proctor was not home.
So just like when you went to when you went to Sergeant Lank's house, and the only person you met with was his wife, when you went to Michael Proctor's house, your claim is the only person you met with was his wife.
I personally did not go to Mike Lanks. It was not Jen going to Michael Lanks. It was Kerry Roberts dropping her daughter off, and I happened to be in the car with her. Elizabeth Proctor, I met with because we couldn't take.
I'm laughing at the comments on the curtains right now, and this was a good one. Mike, a dead man if he says anything, but he loves the curtains. I love these curtains. They're really nice.
Take the torture any longer.
And you were later asked about this unrecorded visit at Trooper Proctor's home by Massachusetts State Police, correct?
Can you remind me?
Sure. Did you have a conversation with a trooper by the name of Tully, who interviewed you specifically about your contact with Michael Proctor?
Could I see the report to refresh my memory?
Do you not remember having a conversation with Trooper Tully?
I've had many conversations over the last 2 years.
Trooper Tully?
Over the last 2 years with a number of troopers.
Okay. Do you, all I'm asking you is, do you, and I've got a report that you refresh
Very
your
tense.
recollection. I wanna know,
Very tense,
first of
Jen.
all, do you remember having a conversation about your relationship with Michael and Elizabeth Proctor with Trooper Tully?
I know I had a conversation with a trooper about it. I don't remember exactly which trooper.
Fair enough. May I approach?
Yes.
I'm gonna show you this page.
Thank you.
Take a look at the face page of that, read it to yourself. And then I'd ask you to turn to the tabbed page, which is paragraph 27.
Thank you so much for the super sticker, Neil. Thank you for all the donations tonight. Miss Shorty,
Okay.
Shabone, and so many we've
You have that in mind?
gotten tonight.
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Does that refresh your recollection, Ms. McCabe, that you had a conversation or an interview, formal interview, with Trooper Tully about your relationship with Elizabeth and Michael Proctor?
Yes.
And you told, actually, let me back up for a second. Okay, was that somewhere in the vicinity of September, late September, early October, when you had that conversation?
Is there a date on it?
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
There's a date stamp on the bottom. Take a look at that date stamp on the bottom and tell me if that refreshes your recollection of about the time that that conversation would have taken place.
Well, the date stamp on the bottom is when it was, I'm assuming, entered into evidence, but
Right.
that doesn't say when the interview itself was.
Right, so if you'll agree with me, you know that you had the meeting with at Elizabeth and Michael Proctor's home
Mhm.
sometime in September 2023, correct?
Correct.
If that's dated October of 2023, that's what I'm trying to get to. I don't know the date because it's not dated.
So I don't either.
So do you think it was between September and October?
It must have been.
Had to have been, right?
Correct.
Thank you. Before I get to that, I've got a couple of other questions.
Oh, Brandy's in the chat. Hi, Brandy.
You had at some point multiple phone calls with Michael Proctor.
We got
after
such the best
January 29th,
best community here.
2022, correct?
I believe so.
Okay. Do you remember all the phone calls that you had with him?
No, I don't.
Would it refresh your recollection to take a look at a log of your phone calls?
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you.
May I approach?
Yes. Is this what was marked 00 or
It's
00
not.
this morning?
That will be next.
I want to thank everyone who's been subscribing. We're like 220 something away from 15,000. It was
Thank
like
you.
2 weeks ago. We got
Look
to
at that and
10.
Tell me if you
Amazing. Thank you so much.
specifically, there's a lot of calls there. There are blue tabs. You could look at those blue tabs and then tell me when you've taken a look at those.
Hey, jerks.
Okay.
Yeah, isn't this great? This is a great comment. Wicked Psych says she doesn't understand why taxes she has previously used aren't working, in my honest opinion. Absolutely. That's what this screams. It, the whole thing with the McAlberts, it screams not ready for prime time. They could get away with this in their small little Canton world. But when the bright lights are on them and way more people are watching them than ever before, they can't get away with this crap. And she can't figure out why it's not working anymore. Not at 50K. She said, oh my God, 50K. No. We're not at 50K. We're almost at 15. 15. Which is huge for us. We were at 10,000 like 2 weeks ago. So basically doubled again, or 50% more again in like 2 weeks. It's pretty awesome. All right, let's play more video. Enough about me.
Just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
I like this comment. Everyone should on the jury should be provided a support dog. I think they might
Having
need one
looked
after
at
this.
Set of records, does this appear to be an accurate reflection of the phone calls that you shared with Michael Proctor at some point on and after January 29th?
Yes.
Just to summarize those, and I don't want to belabor this, but there was a call on the 29th at 10:55 a.m. with Trooper Proctor, correct?
Correct.
There was a call on the 29th at 12:49 p.m., correct?
I didn't memorize them.
I understand. Would you?
So if you want to give me the paper back, then I could probably answer correctly.
You want to
Okay.
do it that way, we certainly can. May I?
Yes.
Thank you.
Still trying to
Thank
control everything. You want to give me that back?
Okay, first call, January 29th, 10:55 a.m. Trooper Proctor calls you for 1 minute and 17 seconds.
Correct.
Next tab, January 29th, 12:49 p.m. Trooper Proctor calls you for 1 minute and 8 seconds.
Correct.
January 30th at 9:51 a.m. You called Trooper Proctor, 4-second call, probably a voicemail or something.
Correct.
This is an interesting comment from my buddy JFK. He said, Mike, did you see John was best friends with Boston? John's best friend was on Boston Finest with Brian Albert. That actually kind of came up today. One of the women who testified was the baby mama of the gentleman that was on Boston Finest with Brian Albert, that was John's partner. Unfortunately, you know what happened. A lot of speculation online about that. We don't know anything, but it's very interesting comment. Yeah. I don't think it's going to come up in the trial, but it's just very interesting.
January 30th, a minute later, 9:52 a.m.
Yeah,
you
Patrick
then call
Rogers.
Trooper Proctor again, 21 minutes and 31 seconds for that call.
Correct.
January 30th, same day, 4:45 p.m. Trooper Proctor calls you, 9 minutes and 43 seconds.
Correct.
January 31st, the next day, at 11:51 a.m., you call Trooper Proctor for 2 minutes and 53 seconds.
Correct.
And check out JFK too. I've been posting his comments. He's a hip hop artist. He's very well known locally, and I would even, he's performed with a bunch of national acts and done songs. He's with Static Selector. I love him, and he's done some great little like mini documentaries about DYS Untold. He also mentors a lot of other hip hop artists. So check him out. I'm gonna actually try to get JFK on the show soon. It's interesting. He's now into the Karen Reed, so I love to kind of cross over with people. So I think I'm gonna have JFK on the show soon. Check him out.
That is the sum of those call logs, correct?
Correct.
Can I approach?
Yes.
Those aren't all the calls that you had with Trooper Proctor. That didn't stop. It's just where these logs stop, correct?
I'd have to see my further call logs.
Do you believe that you've had additional phone calls with Trooper Proctor after that last call on the 31st?
I know I did in 2023.
Okay. In 2022, did you have additional phone calls with her?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look at phone records.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
May we approach briefly?
Okay. Thank you, Tori.
May I inquire?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. McCabe, I don't have the records in front of me. That you will, they'll be found before the end of our conversation. But in the meantime, for expedition, do you remember a call on February 14th with Trooper Proctor lasting about 17 minutes?
I don't know.
Do you remember a call on February 17th lasting about 2 minutes?
I don't know.
Do you remember a call on February 28th lasting about 2 minutes?
I don't recall. Again, it's hard.
I expect that your answer is going to be, I don't recall, but I want to make a record if I could. So this is not a test of your memory at this point. I don't expect you to have it memorized. I just want to ask if maybe one of these stand out in your mind, or all of them. What about a second call on February 28th lasting about a minute?
Don't recall.
On March 1st, another call with Trooper Proctor lasting about a minute.
I do not recall.
Apparently a second call on March 1st lasting about 2 minutes and a few seconds.
I don't recall.
On March 11th, another call in the afternoon lasting about 12 minutes.
I don't recall.
And finally, a call toward the end of March, March 29th, lasting about 4 minutes.
Again, I don't recall.
Okay, understood that this is not a memory test, and I don't have the records in front of me, so I apologize about that. Based on the conversation that we've just had, does that jog your memory that you had multiple calls in February and March with Trooper Proctor, as well as the calls we've gone over with the records in January?
To be honest, I had calls with many people. I was in a state of shock for months.
Well, this is a tough one. Need to know, just said her husband is about to hold an intervention to tell her she needs to tune out. Sometimes we all need a break. I don't know. Maybe he has a point. It will be there when you get back. I'm not sure though. It's a tough call. I think all of our families are dealing with that.
Following this. So if you have the record,
God bless my
I
girlfriend.
can answer off of that. But besides that, just reading them to me does not jog my memory. I'm
But
sorry.
That's okay. You wouldn't quarrel with the idea, I don't want to hold you to a number, you wouldn't quarrel with the idea that you had multiple calls with Trooper Proctor in January, in February, in March, correct?
Well, the ones I've just saw on the record, yes, there were multiple calls there.
And of course, you met him in your home on January 29th.
Yes, I did.
And he came into your living room, you had a conversation with him.
In my dining room, yes.
I'm sorry, your dining room.
Mhm.
And also, Carrie Roberts was there
Carrie Roberts was not there.
on the 29th.
Carrie Roberts was not at my house on the 29th. No.
When was she at your house when she was interviewed?
I believe that was the Tuesday, whatever the date was.
Maybe first? That sound right? First or second?
Yeah, something. It was the Tuesday following.
Okay. And was that with Trooper Proctor or a different trooper?
I'm sorry to keep interrupting Jen McCabe. You could tell that I've had enough of Jen McCabe because I'm more interested in the chat right now. But I like Lauren's comment. She said, tomorrow we touch grass, people. Doesn't it feel like it? No court tomorrow. No court. We got court on Friday and then just Tuesday next week. So if your family's missing you, tell them they're going to have catch-up time. Tomorrow and this weekend and most of next week, we should all just kind of try to relax, reconnect with our families. All right, let's do that. Touch some grass. I'm looking forward to having, like, I'm kind of aggravated with the courts that they're taking so long and they're only doing no court tomorrow, only one day next week. But it's good for us. I think all of us need a break, and hopefully Karen gets a break too, because I have a feeling this is hard. This is hard to go to court every day. So I hope we all can touch grass tomorrow. Good comment, Lauren.
A different trooper.
And with Trooper Proctor on the 29th, when he was interviewing you in your dining room, that was the day that Brian Albert was also there.
Correct.
And was Brian Albert also interviewed on that day?
I believe so.
So Trooper Proctor was in your house for, gosh, it had to have been an hour.
I'm not sure. After I interviewed, I went upstairs and then my children started waking up and I was tied upstairs for a while. I'm not sure when or how long he was there.
But your memory is clear that not only did you meet Trooper Proctor on that day, you had a full conversation with him. It was in your house. That was in your kitchen, in your dining room, and another witness was interviewed by Trooper Proctor in your home as well.
Correct.
And then you had multiple conversations with him in January on that day, the day after, and the day after that. You've already seen those records, correct?
Yes, correct.
Then in either September or October, you were interviewed by Lieutenant Tully. That's the report that you've already seen.
Correct.
And in that interview, you were asked specifically whether or not you had a relationship with Trooper Proctor and when that relationship started, correct?
Correct.
And you said, quote, you had never met Elizabeth Proctor or Michael Proctor prior to September 2023, correct?
I did not say that.
So yet again, this is another example of a trooper completely getting it wrong. Is that right?
Objection.
Sustained, ask it differently.
In your view, did Lieutenant Tully get your statement wrong that you had never met Trooper Proctor before September of 2023?
Objection.
Is that true or is that wrong?
Lieutenant Tully knew I met Proctor prior to that because Proctor was the one who did the initial interview on January 29th.
Does it make you wonder why he wrote in his statement, quote, "You've
Objection, Your
never
Honor.
met Elizabeth Proctor or Michael Proctor prior to September 2023.
So the objection sustained.
If you indicated that you had never met Trooper Proctor before September of 2023, that would be a false statement, correct?
Objection.
You can answer that, Ms. McCabe.
I met Proctor January 29th. It's
That would have been a false
everywhere.
statement. If you said it, would it have been false? That's all I'm asking.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Correct.
On January 29th, in
Yes.
the early morning hours, I want to take you all the way back to 1:30, 1:45 a.m. when you left 34 Fairview on the 29th. After you dropped off the girls, where did you and Matt McCabe go?
We came home.
After you got home, you indicated that you went upstairs, correct?
Correct.
After you went upstairs, you indicated that you got on the phone. On your-
Correct.
on your
Correct.
cell phone, correct?
Correct.
After you got on your cell phone,
Jesus.
you indicated that you started searching for something.
Correct.
So if
Correct.
there's GPS, that you've seen the forensic extraction or part of it, correct?
Correct.
Which one are you referring
Of your
to?
phone. The forensic extraction of your phone.
I saw what you showed me yesterday from Celebrate.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
From
I'm-
Celebrite, part of it.
I saw, yeah, the phone calls. Yes.
Okay. You're aware that that extraction shows that you got home after 2 a.m. or so. So that
This
would
is
be
great
January,
right here.
correct?
This is
Correct.
what we've been waiting for,
Celebrite
people.
extraction shows from your Apple Health data that you actually went up a set of stairs. That would be.
Yeah,
accurate.
that's exactly what's
Accurate.
going. Wear it or down.
Celebrite data shows that you actually logged into your phone, did a login, either Face ID or a passcode, opened up the phone. That would be accurate.
Correct.
Celebrite data shows that you were engaging with an app called Safari to engage some Google searches, correct?
Yes.
That would be generally accurate as well, correct?
Yes.
So after you opened up Safari, you indicated that you Google searched something about ozone basketball. Is that right?
Yes.
That was sometime after 2 a.m., right?
Yes.
What was so important about ozone basketball at 2 a.m. that it couldn't wait until the morning? Why did you search it then?
Well, first I was home. I was wide awake, and I had been texting about a basketball chat, and basketball was clearly on my mind. My daughter had been invited to join a team. I didn't know much about the team, so I just was like Googling to see, because the woman who had given my daughter the offer had wanted an answer.
So you say that basketball was on your mind, correct?
Yes.
Was there anything else on your mind in that early morning hour time frame?
Don't believe so.
Ms. McCabe, if you wanted to know in general how long it takes for a human being to pass away because of exposure to extreme temperatures, right? If you wanted to know the answer to that, what would you Google search? What phrase would you use?
I'm not sure. All I recall is what the defendant asked me to Google in the morning.
If you wanted to know, I'm asking a different question.
Mhm.
If you personally wanted to know, how long does it take for a person to die of exposure due to extreme temperatures? What would you put in? What phrase would you use?
Objection.
Sustained.
Haas to die in
Well,
the
we don't have
cold.
to guess at the phrase that you would
Haas.
use if you wanted to know something.
She
about
knows.
dying of
Look at her acting like
hypothermia.
she doesn't know
Did
what
you
where
actually
he's
Google
going.
search it?
Objection.
Sustained. Ask that differently, please.
Did you, in fact, use a phrase to Google search how long it takes for someone to die of extreme temperatures?
I did in the morning at the request of your client.
Okay. And what phrase did you use?
Is it
I'm
Haas
not
long?
sure.
She's not sure. What a liar.
Correct.
She's
Two and a half-
so upset about all this stuff that Turtle Boy did, but she doesn't know. Come on. You're lying. You're lying. You don't know the phrase that everyone's come at you for months with. Come on, lady. Liar. This is killing me. They just go to get up there and they lie. Your friend JJ, your friend John O'Keefe, your friend Boston police officer John O'Keefe, also known as the guy. This is about him. And you're up here lying about the most trivial, stupid shit. You know exactly what he's talking about here. You're not fooling anyone. How dumb are you, too? Low IQ. She said she was a school teacher. I don't know what she's teaching kids.
Half years of this, you don't know the phrase that you used.
Objection, Your Honor.
There's so many lies
Okay,
and
there's no
misconceptions.
question.
There's
on
so many
social
lies
media.
that you're doing
Oh,
right
I
now.
apologize.
Oh my God, this bullshit artist. There's so many lies and misconceptions, she says, while she's lying. Projection. This is what they do. They project, they play the victim. You fraud, you liar. Look at her. She knows. Yeah, she's been lying the whole time. I didn't delete. Celebrate's wrong. They'll have to explain it why they're wrong because I'm right. She's such a liar. Oh. Then she turns around and says everyone else is lying. Look at her.
Are you telling me you
Look
don't
like a
remember
child.
what
That's what a
Google
child
search
does.
You put in?
It's exactly what a child does. This is what I would expect from a 6-year-old. I'm wondering, has she grown up beyond 6 years old?
Karen was screaming. My hands were shaking. And she was saying, Google hypothermia. How long does it take to die in the cold?
And
Well, so now she knows. Now she knows, but it came from
Karen.
Karen. Now she knows that it came from Karen. 2 seconds ago, she had no clue. Now she knows. But it's Karen. It's all. Jen, you project too much, honey. Projecting. Oh my God. Who does she think she's fooling? She wants to control everyone else. She can't even control herself. She couldn't remember 2 seconds ago. Now she remembers because it was Karen that told her. Unbelievable. What a phony.
Asking you to say it.
Why don't you show me it?
Why don't you
You
show me
literally
it?
don't remember?
Again, she was
Again, when I lean in, I'm wicked aggressive. I'm wicked mad. Look how angry I am. What a fool. This I can't believe she didn't watch the video from the day before and get better at all. Watch your own video. You're terrible at this. This leaning in crap. Come on. Clown show, Jen.
screaming, Google hypothermia. How long does it take to die in the cold?
How about,
And I picked up my phone and I started Googling.
I
and you
started
literally to this
Googling.
day, right now,
I
under
was so angry. Who's angry, Jen? Looks like you're angry right now.
oath, you're saying you don't remember that phrase that you used.
Objection.
Yeah.
I'll allow it.
I'd
that what
say
you're
the
saying?
jury sees it.
I'm
Yeah.
saying that at her
Do you remember it or do you not, Ms. McCabe? That's a simple question.
that morning, I don't remember specifically what I Googled, but I do know what you've put out to the social media.
How about this?
To the social media.
Costs long to die in cold. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, it's been
Why
everywhere
does that sound so familiar?
because you've put it out in social media.
Well, I haven't put anything out.
Again, projection. She's blaming it on Alan Jackson now. It's Alan Jackson's fault. He put it out there. No, he didn't. He's not even on social media. Joker. I mean, just such a fraud.
On social media because I don't personally have social media.
I'm
He's
sorry,
so good.
Turtle Boy did.
So if the world happens to know it,
Mhm.
that's not on me.
Now she just told all these jurors
guess
to look
not.
up Turtle
guess
Boy
not.
this weekend. I mean, Bev, you lost control today. Yeah, again, Bev Canoni. This is on her. Bederow made a good point. We hope the jurors don't look up things this weekend or in this off week that they have. But geez, if they're ever going to do it, exponentially more likely to do it now, and they know where to look because of Jennifer McCabe today. They know to just look up Turtle Boy. Good job, Jen. This is how dumb she is too. Like these folks keep protesting Turtle Boy. You just gave him so much more attention today. Do you know how many more subscriptions you probably gave him tonight? He's on right now, I think. I bet he's got more listeners tonight than he would have had because you said his name today, you stupid moron. This is how bad you are at this, Jen. You're out of your league. You're out of your league.
Hoslong to die in cold is what you put in to the Google search, right?
If you say so.
Is there a reason that
If
you
you
don't
say
want to
so.
admit to that?
Absolutely not.
It's a simple question, right?
No reason.
So say it. What Google search did you use?
Objection.
Sustained.
This is so good. He knows that this Google phrase really gets her going. You could see it. Like he's now using this to push her button. He's got her. Jackson is so good at this. He is so good. A lot of times I look at these lawyers and I'm like, they're overpaid. Like, come on. He's worth every friggin' penny. Both of these guys are. Unbelievable. He is so good at this. This is great. This was made my week. This made my week right here.
You were seeking at some point to Google how long to die in the cold, correct?
Correct.
And you made a mistake and mistakenly typed Hoslong to die in cold, correct?
You could show me it. I'd appreciate it.
You could show me it. I'd appreciate it. Oh man. She's gotta be shown it now. She spent the last 2 years complaining about the harassment from Turtle Boy, but now she has to be shown it. And now she has to advertise it to the world, to all the news media watching, to everyone watching online that doesn't even know anything about Turtle Boy. There are still a lot of people that don't know. Now they know. Now they know where you don't want them to look. Same with the jurors. You're so dumb, Jen. You're like one of the dumbest people. Your whole crew, this McAlbert crew, low IQ. Not smart people. Maybe read more books on Friday night instead of going out drinking. Maybe read more. Maybe watch a documentary once in a while. Dunces. You're so dumb. You don't know how any of this works, do you, Jen? Smartest person in the room you think you are. You're so dumb. Dumb Jen.
You later Google searched.
Yeah, she's telling on herself. You want to know all my bad shit? Look
Yes.
on Turtle Boy. They might as well have just said that to the whole world. You want to know all the bad shit about me? Go look on Turtle Boy Daily News. If you don't know all the bad shit on me, look on Turtle Boy Daily News. That's what you did today, Jen. You must enjoy it. You must enjoy people knowing all your bad shit on Turtle Boy Daily News. Thank you so much, Jen, for becoming a member tonight. I also want to thank, where was it tonight? We had someone who bought some new memberships again tonight for other people, which I just love when that happens. Thank you so much. Let's go back to it if I could find it. There were a few. Sorry to hold you up. Here it is. Sarah O. Sarah O gifted 5 Young Jerks memberships to y'all. Thank you so much, jerks. I'm calling you guys jerks now, too, because the jerks is plural and it includes this community. So thank you, jerks. Yeah, Turtle Boy was there today. He couldn't be in the courtroom when she was testifying. As soon as she got up off the stand, he was in the courtroom. So, and I believe he's allowed to be in the courtroom for the rest of the trial, which is kind of cool. So Turtle Boy was there today.
Thank
She
you.
even drinks water angry. I mean, Christ. Jesus, she needs a chill pill. If anyone needs to smoke a joint, it's Jen McCabe. I don't know. It probably wouldn't even help her. It'd probably make her more, some people it amplifies their anxiety. Jeez, honey. Oh,
While she looks at that, Mr. Jackson, can we bring our clerk back upstairs?
Of course, yes. I think that ship is.
Thank you very much. Can you text Jimmy and tell him?
Take a look at that report and tell me if that refreshes your recollection.
joints for Jen. Maybe Grant can help her out. Get a GoFundMe going.
Yes, it does.
Does that appear to be an accurate page from a Celebrite extraction from your phone?
It does.
Okay. May I have that back? I'm sorry, may I approach?
Yes.
May I have that back for a second? Did you see the actual search phrase? Does
Yes.
that now refresh your recollection?
Yes.
But I'd like to have this marked as next in order. Exhibit, please.
Is there an objection, Mr. Lally?
No, Your Honor.
Jim?
Some ecstasy. She needs some ecstasy therapy. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to help.
May I?
Yes.
I don't think anything's going to help.
Is that, Madam
I think she
Clerk?
needs to I've said this recently a few times. Like I'm not like a religious guy, organizational religion, all that organized religion. I'm not a big fan of, but these people need Jesus. Like they need something like on that level, like change their entire ways. Maybe they need to become Muslims. I don't know, whatever it is. Like they need to go hardcore and become like monks. You know what I mean? Like they need to go on up on the mountaintop and just be away from society. Like that's the type of reform they need.
Move to publish this, Your Honor.
Okay.
They need Jesus. I'm all stuffed up. I don't know if you can tell. Like every day lately with these allergies, killing me.
Does this appear to be the document that was just marked as Exhibit 99?
Yes.
I know it's a little bit small.
Yeah, they think they're above Jesus. Exactly. If anyone needs Jesus, it's them. Someone said she needs a downer, not ecstasy.
Yes.
Third column.
Yeah, the allergies really do suck right now.
Some dates, some data, and then a Google search, correct?
Correct.
What does that Google search say?
House long to die in cold.
Now, you indicate that you did that, you made that search at 6:23 a.m., correct?
Correct.
And then you indicated that you did it again thereafter at 6:24, correct?
Correct.
At 6:24, you misspelled the phrase and you spelled it as follows: how long TI die in CIKD, correct?
Correct.
Now you claim that those two searches were at 6:23 and 6:24 a.m. respectively, correct?
Objection.
Phrase it differently.
Sure. You've indicated under direct examination that these two searches were at 6:23 and 6:24 a.m., right?
I don't know if I gave exact times, but I said it was in the morning and Karen had asked me to do it.
And you claimed that you searched it because Karen was screaming at you and yelling at you, Google hypothermia, and you Googled how long does it take for a person to die? I'm sorry, she said something like, how long does it take for a person to die of hypothermia? And you Google searched it at 6:23 and 6:24. Is that right?
Again, I'm not sure about the exact times. I just did it after Karen asked me to do it.
Would you quarrel with the idea that those were about 30 seconds apart?
Okay.
And you're aware, Ms. McCabe, that both misspellings of that phrase result in the exact same search results, don't they?
I'm not aware of that, no.
Well, you Googled them, ma'am. You're looking on your phone and you Googled how long to die in cold and how long to die in CIKD. Both of those. You Googled them, right?
I did, yes.
And they result in the exact same.
I love this comment. I guess she couldn't spell hypothermia. Doubtful. I don't think she reads a lot of books. Let's put it that way at this point. I mean, it's pretty obvious.
Search results, don't they?
I have no idea.
She's too
So my
smart for
question
books.
to you is, why the two searches?
She was standing next to me screaming, shaking my hand. My hand was cold. I was trying to Google it. Obviously, maybe whatever came up first didn't make sense because I had some misspellings. So I did it again.
So Hoslong to die in cold results in articles concerning dying of exposure, doesn't it?
We never got the chance to read it.
Well, you're the one, when you say we, who's we?
Karen and myself.
Well, you're the one holding the phone, Ms. McCabe.
Correct.
So you're looking down at your phone and you see exactly what comes up, correct?
I don't remember exactly what came up.
Well, what came up was something about dying of hypothermia, didn't it?
That's what she asked.
See, this
So
is
what-
one thing I wish they had maybe gotten into. And we don't know what they know. I thought that they might get into when she actually did the search in the morning. Was she really standing next to Karen when she made the second and third search? They didn't get into that. I don't know why. It's probably, maybe they didn't have enough info on it. Either way, this was epic. I mean, let's watch this ending.
Why do it again? Why do it again, Miss McCabe? You had the result. Why the second search?
I cannot answer that beyond telling you that my hands were frozen. She was shaking me and screaming at me.
It's Karen's
You
fault.
see the time, let me scroll up.
She was screaming at me. That's my answer.
According to the Celebrate data,
You notice too, like one thing I noticed too is I didn't see any comforting of Karen at that scene. If that was my friend or even an acquaintance, and you're the only person that they know there, and they just found their boyfriend dead in the snow, you think they might try to hug them or talk them down a little bit. It didn't seem like that. It seemed like they were yelling back for her to shut up.
you see this first search that says Hoslong to die in cold?
I do.
What's that time?
You've got the, it's right over at
Yeah, like she was annoying
2:27
them.
AM or PM?
a.m.
Ms. McCabe, you made that search at 2:27 a.m. because you knew that John O'Keefe was outside in your sister's lawn dying in the cold, didn't you?
Absolutely not. I did not make that search at that time. No.
Realized the next morning, after John was discovered, after 6 a.m., that you had an incriminating search on your
See,
phone.
I do think that there was some animosity there from jump. I think you're 100% right on that, JFK. I think it's obvious why, too. And John O'Keefe, too. I think some of those dudes might have been jealous of John O'Keefe. He was a good-looking, handsome young man. Nice. All the girls liked him. Everything that they are. I mean, is Ryan Higgins look like a nice guy that people like, the girls like, that everyone likes? John seems like and you know, a good athlete, you know, a well-rounded guy. John seemed like and just like Karen, you would notice them when they came in a room.
Didn't you?
Absolutely not.
To cover your tracks, you searched it again in order to overwrite the original search at 227, correct?
Again, absolutely not.
But you were nervous and you screwed it up. So the first search you made at 623 was Hoslong to die in CIKD, wasn't it?
No.
Well, you see the search right there, correct?
I see the search, but I disagree with your narrative.
And what's the time frame of that search?
623.
And you agree that time frame is accurate, right?
Again, it's what the report says.
And that comports with your memory of that morning, about 6:23 in the morning in 51 seconds.
Correct.
There's a second search, correct?
Correct.
And this one at 6:24 says Hoslong to die in cold. 6:24:16, correct?
Correct.
I'm sorry, 18. I was up that grade. And that comports with your memory as well.
I remember Googling it at the request of the defendant. Yes.
About 27 seconds apart, correct?
Yes.
But the reality is your first search didn't comport with the 2:27 a.m. search, did it? It was a different spelling, wasn't it?
I never searched a 227. That is not reality.
But the 6:24 search did exactly mirror the search that, according to this report, took place at 2:27, correct?
I'm sure Celebrite will be able to explain it to you. I can't.
And then of those three searches, one of them ended up deleted. Isn't that right?
I never deleted any search.
Take a look at the Celebrite report, top search, and the column marked deleted. What do you see?
I see a yes.
Ms. McCabe, the reason you deleted that 2:27 a.m. call is because you realized that if you were caught Googling how long it takes for a person to die in the cold 3.5 hours before John's body was found, that would incriminate you, wouldn't it?
Objection.
The objection sustained.
Did you delete that search because you knew that you would be implicated in John O'Keefe's death if that?
Someone made a comment about someone the defense should call. The defense hasn't called anybody yet. We don't know who I mean, we have a witness list, but I'm sure they may have a canine expert. I'm not sure.
Search was found on your phone.
Objection.
Could you answer that, please?
I did not delete that search. I never made that search at 2:23. I never would have left John O'Keefe out in the cold to die because he was my friend that I loved.
But he's not your family.
Does that sound believable? If you actually if he was your friend that you loved, I think you would say it more like Carrie Roberts did today. Carrie was very believable in terms of caring about John. That was real. That little thing that you just did, Jen, was not real. It was fake. It was angry. It was vile. You're a fake phony, and everyone saw it today. The whole world saw it today, Jen. And you can't blame Turtle Boy. That was on you today. Has nothing to do with Turtle Boy. It's what you did on that stand today.
Family and friends.
Objection.
Sustained.
You acknowledge that you made the search at 6:23, don't you?
In the morning, I did,
You
yes.
acknowledge that you made the search at 6:24.
Multiple times in the morning, yes.
Of the three searches that show up that were all found on your phone, the one that you disavow is the one that took place at 2:27 a.m., which would implicate you and exonerate my client, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. Can I ask it differently, Mr. Jackson?
Of those 3 searches, there was only one marked deleted. Isn't that right?
Correct.
That was the one at 2:27 a.m., correct?
I wouldn't even know how to go in and delete a
That's not what I
search.
asked you. The one according to the Celebrate report that was deleted, the one at 2:27 a.m., correct?
Correct.
You would agree that that's awfully convenient for you, isn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
The only one deleted. Strange. Just another coincidence, like the 7 butt dials.
That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Lally?
Thank you. This clown show. I'm gonna speed this
Yes.
clown up because it doesn't even matter.
Thank you.
He's just a joker. Tries to savage this piece of crap. Look at him. Look at this clown. Or a joke too, buddy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Going back a little bit, you were asking questions about the Life 360 application that you had on the phone, is that right?
Look,
Yes.
when you play him
You know
twice
that app
speed,
is
he talks
using that app
normal.
to see where your children are at various times, is that correct?
Yes.
And from your experience using that app, how accurate is it as far as location, time, or anything in regard to it?
Pretty accurate, varying look some of their locations and sometimes weather.
Have you ever had instances in which you were told someone was somewhere and they were not there?
Yes.
And you were asking questions about Ryan Nagel's truck, correct?
Yes.
And do you know, or did you on January 29, 2022, did you know Ryan Nagel?
I did not.
Do you know what kind of vehicle he drove?
I did not.
Keep your voice up, Mr. Lally, please.
Do you know whether or not that was actually somebody else's truck?
I do not know.
Do you know whether or not on January 29, 2022, Ryan Nagel had a friend named Ricky?
I do now.
He
But on the
does.
29th, did you?
No.
On the 29th, did you have any idea what kind of vehicle he drove?
No.
The person you didn't know.
Right. Correct.
Speed Lally
Outside
up
as far as
twice.
the,
He sounds like a regular
truck was
person.
concerned, did you even see a
He's
truck?
so
I just saw
slow.
lights, vehicle. I didn't focus much attention to what was over there.
But fair to say you weren't paying attention to a truck you didn't see.
She
a person
still
you didn't know,
sounds
you've never
terrible.
seen before, correct?
Sustained as to that point.
Now, you were asking questions about text between Ryan Nagel.
Yeah,
and
like
Ricky,
this.
Yes.
This is a great comment. The perfect example. She couldn't watch her testimony because they were all celebrating her successful testimony last night on Real. Exactly. Celebrating your catastrophe last night instead of actually watching and trying to do better than work hard. Oh, party. Yes. Says it all. That pretty much sums up Jen McCabe, I
As
think.
far as when those texts were sent, you don't know. Do
Can you clarify?
you know whether or not Ryan Nagel texted his sister Julie before you even pulled on Fairview Road?
They were texting about his arrival.
Texting about his arrival, but do you know where Ryan Nagel was when he was texting Julie about his arrival?
I believe he was outside.
You don't know. Is that fair to say?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you know whether or not Ryan Nagel was on Cedar Crest or somewhere else when he texted Julie that he was about to arrive or that he was there?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Do you know that?
I don't know that now.
As far as the defendant's motor vehicle and the truck Mr. Nagel was in, did you see either of those vehicles arrive in front of Fairview?
Yes.
You saw them pull up?
No, actually, are you asking if I saw them pulling up or if I saw when they arrived? I did not see them pulling up.
So at some point after they arrived, your attention was drawn outside.
Yes.
And when we're talking about you going to the door and looking outside, how long a period are you looking at?
Not long.
So would you describe it as either a glance or more of a staring intently at the vehicle out front of the house?
Sustained.
How would you describe the manner in which you were looking out at the SUV in front of the house?
I would go to the front door. I look out. I saw the vehicle. I believe I sent a text and I went and sat back down.
Now, in any of those times that you went to the door, and you know how many times you went to the door?
I don't know exactly.
At least twice, is that correct?
At least, yes.
Now, in those at least twice at least twice that you saw the vehicle and once that you saw the vehicle was gone, correct?
Yes, so I guess actually it was more than twice because I saw the vehicle move as well.
And when you say as far as you saw the vehicle move, did you see the vehicle physically move or was it in one place and then you came back later and it was in a different?
It was in one place and then when I came back, it was further up.
Now, at any of those points in time, did you glance out the storm door? Did you see anybody outside of the vehicle?
No.
Did you see inside of it?
No.
Did you see anybody outside other than Julie Nagel on the front lawn, front walkway or anything else?
No.
At any point in time while you were at 34 Fairview that night, did you see John O'Keefe?
No.
At any point in time when you texted John O'Keefe after you arrived at Fairview, did John O'Keefe respond?
No.
At any point in time after you arrived at Fairview, after you hung up from the 12:18 a.m. call in which you were describing where 34 Fairview was in reference to Bella's house, did you ever hear from John O'Keefe ever again?
No.
See the difference in the tone that Attorney Bederow has noted? That you shouldn't have a different tone and a different way of answering depending on who's asking you the questions as a witness. When she's talking to Jackson, she's doing this. She's yelling at him. She's not doing that right now, is she? She's saying no.
And during
Yes.
that about
No.
20 minutes
Yes.
or so
No.
period of time when Mr. O'Keefe or defendant SUV is in front of the house, you never heard anything from John O'Keefe, correct?
Correct.
And did that strike you as unusual as far as you not responding?
I thought it was strange, but then I thought that they just might have decided to go home or had gotten into a fight or Kaylee wanted him home.
Now, you're looking out through the storm door and you see Alexis with its lights, right?
Correct.
And from that area, the secondary area, up by the flagpole and the fire hydrant, that's the same area
And let me just say, people are going after other people for not knowing who Plevin is. It'd be good if we didn't, all of us didn't know who Plevin is. And there are a lot of new people following this case. So be nice to people if they don't know everything. So much to take in on this case. There are a lot of new people who are just discovering this, finding out about it. Be nice to them, welcome them, give them the info. And they probably don't need to know about Plevin. Who cares? He's not important.
Area where you found John O'Keefe the next day, correct?
Correct.
And with reference to that area, is there any lights or street lights or anything that you're aware of in that area?
No, it's a dark area in the corner of the lot.
Now, at any point in time, were you looking or were you expecting to see John's body on the lawn?
Absolutely not.
And fair to say, when you're looking in the dark, in the snow, from storm door, out towards the vehicle, not the same conditions as if you're standing in a courtroom, sitting in a courtroom today. but
Exactly.
away
Who
from
is he?
termination,
Nobody
correct?
cares.
Correct.
You shouldn't care.
In fact, when you go back to Fairview the next morning,
All right, we'll fast forward a little bit.
Yes.
I don't want to
You terminated
miss
search.
Jackson, though. He comes back
Correct.
quickly.
Wearing towels or blankets.
I
And
guess
then
he
a
went
few times I go to the rear because
further than
I'm
I thought, huh? Oh, here we go. See, I didn't think Lally went that long in his, redress, but I guess he did. Don't ask me what an attorney is. What is an attorney? Yeah, Plevin makes up discredited videos that show John getting hit by a car on the wrong side. He's a moron that thinks he's like Jen. He's got a lot in common with Jen. He's a moron who thinks he's the smartest guy in any room he's in, like Grant Smith. Man, this is taking too long. I just want to get to Jackson.
Yes, go ahead.
no limitations.
And Beltran
Yes.
asked some questions about 5 when Mr. McCabe.
Well, Lally did his
Complete
job.
lies about all of us.
He
They
tried
said-
to really
That was all
salvage
about,
this.
I don't know, 50 to 70.
All right, here we go.
Nothing further.
Okay, Mr. Jackson.
Concerning statement, I hit. You gave a statement on January 29th to Sergeant Light. Called him over. You specifically give him a statement, correct?
Correct.
Gave a statement the next day, later that day, Trooper Proctor, correct?
Correct.
You were also met with, on that following Tuesday, with a trooper named Prince, correct?
Correct.
And then you testified in April of 2022, no fewer than 12 times about statements that you attributed to Ms. Reed, correct?
Correct.
And in not one of those,
Pause right there. People keep asking me to cover other cases right now. No, I can't do anything but Karen Reed right now. It's taken over my life, and I don't have time for anything else. I got the dog walk business. I got my family upstairs, so I really don't have time right now.
instances, not one, is there a report that says you said, she said, I hit him, correct?
Correct. Although I told Mike Lank.
Oh, we already know that the officers all got it wrong.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained as to that. Next question, please, Mr. Jackson.
So you indicate that you were, the harassment that you just described, this terrible harassment that you just described, started in about April 2023, correct?
Correct.
That was around the time that there were public hearings concerning this Google search. Is that right?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Is that right?
I'm not sure exactly when the Google search came out.
But you do know that you started suffering this harassment that you claimed is awful and terrible, et cetera, around April of 2023. Is that right?
I didn't claim it's awful. It is awful.
Okay, I'm sure it is awful, Ms. McCabe. I'm sure it's terrible.
It
I'm
is.
sure it sucks to be harassed.
It really does.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
Objection, Your Honor.
All right, so that's sustained and I'll strike it. Go ahead and ask a question, Mr. Jackson.
You were upset by April of 2023 that there was public outrage about your family being involved in the death of John O'Keefe. Is That's what you were upset about, correct?
I was upset that we as witnesses were being harassed.
You were upset about public outrage concerning this case, correct?
Objection.
Sustained, that was answered. Next question.
And 2 months later, in June of 2023, for the first time, you testified at another proceeding, and lo and behold, you attributed the words, "I hit him," to my client, right?
Objection.
So ask that without the objectionable phrase.
You changed her
2 months
story
later,
after she got
At
harassed.
another proceeding in June of 2023, you attributed the statement, "I hit him," to my client for the first time under oath, correct?
Under oath, correct.
You indicated when you turned your phone in, the police were perfectly okay with you deleting communications with your children, correct?
Correct.
Including Allie, who's a material witness in this trial.
Objection.
correct?
So part of that is objectionable, and I'll sustain that. So
You're aware that your daughter Allie was a witness in this case.
At the time, I was not aware of that, no.
No, but you did know that ultimately she was going to indicate that she drove Colin home, correct? You knew that at the time.
Objection.
that's sustained.
Did you know at the time that Allie had driven Colin home, or she said she drove him home?
I had no idea she drove him home.
But you deleted all those communications with Allie, didn't you?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you delete all the communications that you had off your phone with Allie, your daughter?
Objection.
So this has already been answered, but go ahead, finish. Let's finish this loop. Did you delete them?
I deleted the conversations with my 4 daughters. At that time, Allie was not a witness.
All I asked you, you heard my question. Did you or did you not delete the communications with Allie?
Objection.
That's been answered.
You said that there was this statement that horrified you, your words, horrified you. That
I want to stop it right there. You know what's so good about that is she admitted deleting things. If she deletes some things, guess what? She deletes other things. I mean, that she admitted deleting things, deleting her messages to her daughters. Jury's going to think about that.
Carrie Roberts made during her interview, which you were eavesdropping.
Yeah, after she said she doesn't know how to delete shit, right? Right? See that? Yeah, she said she didn't know how to delete stuff, and now she just admitted she deleted stuff. This is Jen McCabe. Dumb Jen McCabe.
I'm not sure if she made it during that interview. I'd have to look back to see when I said she told them everything in bold, because I know she had said it to me multiple times. So I'm not sure if it's when she said it in the interview or just in general, when she said, I told them everything. I told them, etc.
So when you said in that group chat, she's telling them everything, that might not even be what you're talking about.
No, it was.
And you said that horrified you, correct?
I didn't know Carrie Roberts. So yes, her statement horrified me.
Horrified.
Horrified.
Yes, that
She's
was horrifying.
And in that group
It's
chat,
horrifying, to tell the truth, to talk too much. Why is that horrifying, actually? Why would Carrie Roberts telling the police too much or talking too much be horrifying? Well, see, Jackson is really good. If you're not paying attention, it can almost slide right by you, right? But if you're Jen McCabe, I don't even think she knows what she admitted to. This is awesome.
your response to that horrifying statement was 3 words. I love it.
Was there a response prior to that?
You tell me, ma'am. I'm not the one under oath. You are.
Well, if you want to show me it again,
She's
I'd love it.
smiling. She thinks this is funny. I love it. I love it, Jen. I can smile too. I'm gonna even have a bigger smile when I get my new implants in. Working on those. But I can smile too, Jen. We can have the big smile. Look at her smiling. She's not wicked sad about her. Notice too, like Jen has the only emotion she's shown is anger that she's been harassed. She's angry because she got harassed. That's the only emotion Jen has shown throughout this, is that she thinks she's better than everyone in the court, especially the defense attorney who's kicking her butt. And she thinks that she's angry. That's it. She's angry. There's no I'm so upset about John. Like any of that is all BS. There's nothing like with Kerry where you could actually feel, wow, she actually cared about John. Like it felt real. Whether or not it is, I think it was real. Jen, none of that. It's just angry. That's all you get from her. And lying.
Yesterday.
Liar.
So, do you have it handy, Mr. Jackson?
I don't, Your Honor, I'll grab it. Okay.
Have another sip,
Your Honor,
Bev.
it's been marked and entered. It was the packet this morning that I did. May I approach?
Sure.
Yeah, that was nasty too, right there. That comment. So nasty. We're getting a lot of love tonight for the curtains. Thank you so much. I like the curtains too. We're not going to replace them. My girlfriend actually gave me permission if I wanted to replace them. We're going to keep them. I like them. It lights up the room. Oh, maybe. That's a suggestion for JFK. We need JFK to write a song. Maybe he'll write a song for the Free Karen Reed movement. Or maybe for the show. We need an intro. I need an intro video going or something.
Yes.
He could. JFK is wicked talented. You guys, if you haven't, check out JFK. He's on Spotify, YouTube, everywhere. Check him out. He's also got some really good documentaries about Middleton and Danvers State Hospital, and DY.
Could you tell me what pages?
I love his stuff. Check him out.
What's the second number, Ms. McKay?
Number, bottom right.
2170.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bederow was
Yes, I
already
do.
on. He was driving. He was in the car driving to Boston. We had him on for like an hour and a half.
Conversation, when you said she's telling them everything, that came right on the heels of your husband saying this girl could write a book. This woman could write a book or something like that, correct?
Correct. She talks nonstop.
Right. And then you said 2 texts down, she's telling them everything.
Correct.
The text just before that was, I love it.
That was in response to my husband saying this girl could write a book.
What's the next thing that you wrote to that group within a second of that?
She is telling them everything.
Right. May I put the quote?
Sure.
Yeah.
Nowhere in that text.
This is
chain
JFK
you say
series.
something
DYS, untold long-lasting effects of juvenile detention, which he had. He saw he was on the streets. He saw what went on. He lost a friend actually. His friend got street stuff. JFK calls it like it is too. I love his attitude, how positive he is, and he tells the truth. He's got skills, and I also like how he's got Wade Barber. He helps a lot of the other younger guys out there too, because he's been around. So I got mad respect for JFK. We're gonna play it a little more and finish this off.
on the lines of, oh my goodness, I'm so horrified. Did you?
Those were on phone conversations.
Nowhere in those texts that you just saw did you say the words or write the words, I'm so horrified. Did you?
No, because it was already spoken about.
You were asked on that morning, January 29th, 2022, as you drove to the location and ultimately to 34 Fairview. What ultimately happened? And your testimony was, as you approached, my client was searching frantically for John O'Keefe, correct?
I don't believe I said she was searching frantically for John O'Keefe.
Searching frantically,
She was screaming frantically in the back seat
frantically.
and texting in the back seat.
Was she just sitting there, curled up in the back seat, sucking her thumb, or was she searching out the window?
She was screaming
Right.
between Kerry and I. So I'm not really sure how she saw John over here when her head is up here screaming and then looking down and texting.
Was the whole point of that trip, Ms. McCabe?
Look at her. So who immediately thinks that this is weird? I don't even want to get into any more on this because it's going to drive me crazy. Trying to explain my issues with this, but this shit is just so bizarre. I think it's self-explanatory. She's just
To search for John?
It was because she knew where he was.
The whole point of that trip was to look for him, correct?
She directed us to go to 34
No.
Fairview.
The whole point of the trip was to look for
she
John,
directed.
At
correct?
30,
Like you didn't know where he was, Jen? What's that all about? She directed us there. Like you didn't know that that was the last place John was? Come on.
34 Fairview, where Karen said to go.
And your testimony is that if it hadn't been for Karen jumping out of that truck, you would have stopped, correct?
Because I wouldn't have seen him. I didn't know he was
Yes or
there.
no?
She did.
Okay, yes or no? Was that your statement? If she hadn't gotten out of the car, you wouldn't have stopped.
I don't believe it was stated like that. I believe there was a question and I answered.
And the question was, would you have stopped? And your answer was what?
What was the direct
Oh my
question?
goodness, Ms. McCabe.
What's
It
the
was
direct
5
question?
minutes ago.
Did he ask, did you
Objection,
see
Your Honor.
something?
Did you? Did
You
you?
like to change words. I just want to be certain.
I just want to
So,
be
Mr.
certain
Jackson,
'cause
just
I'm a
keep it to
busybody.
questions, not comments.
You were asked just a second ago by Mr. Lally if Karen Reed hadn't jumped out of the car, you wouldn't have stopped, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct.
All right, Ms. McCabe. we
Good
will
night,
finish
Jen
now.
McCabe.
Here is- I'm going to ask you to.
Oh,
Okay,
God.
We'll take a recess and.
Good night, Jen. She broke AJ. She thinks she did. I think he broke her. He did. That was hysterical. Yeah, I don't think she's ever had anyone tell her what to do. Good night, Canton. Good night, Jen. I'm exhausted. It's like walking 15 dogs at once. Yeah, I think this is a good comment. I think AJ even needs a White Claw after that. He's probably had several White Claws tonight. Knowing he doesn't have to be in court tomorrow. Well, I know. What does AJ do? And Liza Little, they're in town. They've obviously been staying in hotels the whole time for this court case. I wonder if they go home on weekends. He's probably just getting like, why not lick it up tonight, right? I mean, what's he gonna do tomorrow? I'm sure they're getting ready for Higgins. Someone asked me to play that last video about Higgins. I mean, we could. I guess that's right here at the end, right? No, they have other witnesses in between. Maybe another night. I'm done tonight. I want to thank everyone for supporting us, all the donations. JFK says, Mike, why did he end it like that? Would you stop? I just think it was done. I think he proved that she's full of shit. You know? It's like Mark Bederow says, how much more can you get? You know, if you got her at 99% being shady, it's done. Done, done, done. All right, let me check. Stephanie. Oh my God, Stephanie. I love Stephanie. She's great. Listens all the time. She sent a donation, $25. She said, thanks for the badass shows. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Very generous of you. She sent $25 on the Venmo. Thank you so much. All right, that's it. I'm going to hang it up tonight. Well, you guys were very generous too. 42 super chat donations tonight. Thank you so much. I'm not sure about tomorrow night. I may even hit up JFK. Maybe we'll have JFK up tomorrow night. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow night. Friday, we'll be back live broadcasting, 9 a.m. The trial, definitely. And then I'm sure we'll do some type of Friday night show too, probably with Bederow. So thank you so much. And thank you for showing interest and always asking me when my next show is. I don't even know. Half the time I don't know when you're asking me, but it feels good that people want to know. It puts pressure on me to make something happen for you. I've always been someone when the pressure is on, I step up. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much, everyone, for supporting. We'll see you very soon. We're taking off tomorrow. I'll probably do a show Thursday night, but I'm taking off the day tomorrow. No streaming during the day tomorrow. We'll see everyone definitely by Friday. Thank everybody